While attending a dinner party between old friends at his former home, Will discovers his ex and her husband have joined a new cult. Almost immediately, Will distrusts their positive attitudes and possible motivations, all the while wrestling with his own demons. As the night goes on, paranoia sets in and memories begin to haunt Will around every corner. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode, we'll be covering 2015's The Invitation, directed by Karyn Kusama. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to another feature presentation here over at Midnight Double Feature. We're going to be covering 2015's The Invitation tonight. But when I say we, I do not mean Zoheb, because fuck Zoheb. No, I'm just kidding. Here with me, live in the studio, we got Matthew Anderson from LSU Media. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Standing on the corpse of Zoheb. Standing up high.
Fatality. No, yeah, unfortunately, we just had some scheduling snafus and finafles or whatever. It's a podcaster's life, especially for, you got people who live in a different time zone. I mean, shit happens like that all the time. But, we're still glad to have you on. We're trudging on, Zoheb in spirit. But yeah, I mean, we're super excited to have you back on because it's almost been almost right at a year since you were on last for Get Out, I think. Yeah, that was October.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I think that was a little Halloween presentation.
Right, yeah. It was funny because when we had Dean on, he was talking about, oh yeah, you guys bring me on for Roadhouse, you wouldn't dare let me near Get Out. I was like, yeah, probably.
What, you guys want to get banned off iTunes? Shit, come on, you're just getting started here. Fuck.
Exactly. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Just a quick breakdown. This is our feature presentation episode. It's going to be a bit longer. We do spoil these movies. There is an E on this motherfucking show for a reason. This is one of our longer ones. We're going to break it down, kind of chronologically. We'll, skim over some stuff. We'll get into, there's plenty of meat on the bone, especially for a movie like this. And yeah, if you're more into like the news and stuff that's going on right now, check out our upcoming attractions episodes. Those are hosted every other week with our other host, Matt Vella, who's actually, I think he's like at Monster Fest right now. He had one of his films premiered with like Carrie and like a bunch of like old horror films and stuff. I was like, that is fucking awesome. Damn. So he's really taken off as like a filmmaker. And I'm always so fun. It's like, you see your friends who do creative shit. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like that always makes me happy to see him doing shit like that. But yeah, he's doing, him and Zoheb, they kind of do reviews and reactions and, trailer breakdowns and stuff like that sometimes on those upcoming attractions episodes. And if that's something you're more geared towards, we also do those every other week. But getting back to this fucking episode on this feature presentation, because fuck upcoming attractions. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm excited to jump into this because I've heard you mention this more than once on the LSG podcast feed. And I think it was because you said something about it. I watched it even in the first place. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I did that with this. I did that with Pulse. I think it was like the Japanese horror film. Yeah. I ended up, I'm not going to lie. I didn't like that one as much as The Invitation, but The Invitation was like fucking superb. And I think it goes along really well with the fact that we also just did Babadook. And I think these are similar, the new wave of like smart horror kind of shit. But yeah, you're the guest here and you're the one who kind of got me onto this, onto the trail of this thing. What's your history with it? Like, because it's a small film. Like, is it something you knew was coming out or was it something you had to because I didn't see any, kind of promotions for this ever. What's your history with it and shit?
Dude, I stumbled ass backwards and blind into this movie. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it was great. What ended up happening, I don't even remember what the context around it was, but it was one of those nights when this movie had first come out, and I just ended up having nothing to do. Friends were busy every year. Like there was just nothing happening. And I was kind of like, I just feel like going to see a movie then. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's out, but let's see. And I just looked up actually the Laurelhurst Theater in Portland, which at the time was doing only second run movies and would occasionally do a first run for like a smaller movie. And this was out. It was just there. And I hadn't heard of it at all. Didn't know anything about it. And just looked up the trailer, watched the trailer. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. It looks like a good horror movie. I'll check it out. And just went on to the theater and grabbed a beer and a pizza and sat and watched this movie and got my fucking socks knocked off, man. This is maybe the perfect type of movie to go in with no knowledge about it whatsoever. I saw like the minute and a half teaser trailer and that was it. And I was like, ooh, looks intriguing. That's it. That's all I knew. And it's a beautiful, perfect movie for that. Like the mystery is thick. This is one of my favorite movies to show people who've never seen it before. It is, especially since it's on Netflix now. I'm like hanging out with a couple of friends, or we're like, oh, what should we watch? I'm like, has anybody seen The Invitation? And I love when no one has, and I'm like, beautiful. Let's watch this, because I'm not going to tell you anything about it. But yeah, like you already like kind of touched on, I feel like this is, I don't know when you could pin it down to like a year or whenever it started, but I think we are pretty well into a new wave of just excellent, smart horror that is kind of, I don't know fully how to describe it. I can't think of a name or anything for it. But one of the things I would like to note about it is that it just feels like, you know, and we're about the same age. It's like we grew up with all the good horror movies seemed like they'd already been made. Like they were made in the 70s and 80s. And the stuff that was coming out in like the mid 2000s was mostly dog shit with occasional like The Faculty. You're like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And, you know, maybe 4 more years we'll get another single good horror movie. Or like Final Destination. You're like, yeah. Right. There were a couple of little like gems that would pop out amongst them. But I feel like the mid 2000s all the way up until like 2011, 2012 even were like either two things. They were crappy, like ghost movie, like, oh, you've been dead the whole time, like bullshit ghost story movies, or they were just like really sloppy, lame, gory slash 'em ups. And you know, like I said, it had its exceptions, it had its good moments, but they all felt like movies that were purely concerned with, we're just going to be a sloppy horror movie. We're just going to be a splatter fest. We're going to be, it's going to be all just atmosphere, and you're here for the horror. This is horror fans only. And now I feel like we're in this phase of, these are just good movies. They're just good films. They're well made, well acted, intelligently written stories that also become horror movies. And I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'm so glad we're finally dipping back into an age of intelligent horror movies. Because if you go back to the 70s, there's a lot of really thoughtful, you know, deep, intriguing horror stories. And we just had this like weird drought for a long time. And it's like finally people are reclaiming the genre of like, no, it can actually be smart and good and engaging. And like you already said, The Babadook, I think, is a fantastic example. The Invitation, It Follows. These are all just like these new beyond, you know, and they're also not falling into that trap of just like nostalgia, like of just like, it's just like an 80s slasher, and it's also set in the 80s and everything's fucking 80s. Come on, buy our 80s themed toys about it. Like we have a new, original, bizarre, mysterious story. And like I said, man, I can't wait to dive into this. I think it is a beautiful exercise in holding back, like withholding as much as you can from the audience. And I mean, to some people, I can imagine people not liking this movie just because of how long it asks you to wait and how long it asks you to just like, ooh, maybe, but not yet. Ooh, maybe, but not yet. Like it keeps pulling you back. But the structure of this thing, man, I think is incredible. And I know I could keep rambling and just blowing my load, and I don't want to do that. But you saw it after I probably mentioned it, or you heard it mentioned, you know, on our podcast or somewhere else, and you kind of just found your way into it as well. Did you know anything about it outside of that?
No, not really. I think I can't even remember the episode that I heard it on. It might have been like the directing horror, like that was like a bonus ep for a while, and then I think I put on the normal. I can't remember. It might have been that one, because that's where I first heard you talk about Pulse as well. But no, I didn't know jack shit about this. And I was like, okay, whatever. Oh, cool dude from Upgrade. I like that dude. And I was like, I want to see more of his shit. And I knew he was in Spider-Man, like the first Tom Holland one for like 5 minutes. But the guy's a solid actor, and I enjoy him. I enjoy his performances, and he's like the I don't know, like the watered down Tom Hardy kind of look. You know what I mean? Like everybody, I feel like a lot of people thought like, is Tom Hardy, is this like a Liam Neeson, or I'm sorry, like a Liam Hemsworth and Chris Hemsworth, like the Skarsgård? Are these guys like the new Skarsgård? Like I seriously thought he and Tom Hardy were brothers. I was like, this guy has to be fucking Tom Hardy's brother. I was way off. But I really enjoyed what I'd seen him in, and I was really high on Upgrade, I think, after seeing him in that. And I was like, this still is fucking cool. I still have not seen that. Yeah. It's very good. I honestly, I would like, it's kind of also with horror, we're getting these cool sci-fi movies that come out now. And I think that's kind of what it's like. Iron Man meets RoboCop, and that's the best way I can describe it. It's fucking cool, and it does not go in the direction you think it would. It is not the like hero saves the day type shit. But this movie, this movie, I can't remember exactly when I watched it. I know I had only watched it once before getting ready to do it for this podcast, and not out of like, oh, I don't like that movie, not anything like that at all. But it is one of those things like I remembered a lot of it after seeing it, you know, for one time, and I didn't feel the need to like revisit a lot of stuff that, you know, and that the ending of it as well, that kind of ending for me is like, oh shit. I remembered what happened, but I also kind of forgot how we got there. And that's why I'm like, oh fuck, I want to just sit down and like forget about this movie and just dig it back up again, you know?
Yeah.
But I watched it with my girlfriend, Lindsay, and we both really enjoyed it. We were surprised by the lack of like coverage or press or anything about it. I looked up, I think it made a couple 100,000 in theater. It was like a very like limited run. There's also, there's quite like the guy who plays David is in like Haunting of Hill House, and now like he's getting bigger. And there's a few people that I've seen peppered through this. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen you in other shit before. I mean, and definitely
John Carroll Lynch, the guy who plays Pruitt, he's incredible, man. He's such a good actor.
It's like he just revitalized his character of Zodiac. He's walking around with a gun, and I'm just like, oh my god, Zodiac. That's all I can fucking think of. Huh. But no, like you said, it's this new wave of smart horror. It's not the gore. It's not a body count. It is I feel like horror dipped so heavily into that gore fest like type of horror, which if that's what you're into, cool, whatever, it's not my cup of tea. But I like more of the psychological. I'm even, stuff like Sleeping with the Enemy, Julia Roberts, or, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It's like, I love that shit. I love the thriller. Even something like Misery, Misery is similar
Misery.
Dude, fucking, yeah, same here. And it invoked, the invitation invoked some feelings of that with a person who is like confined to this house, and but that's so many other stories too. It's The Thing, it's Night of the Living Dead. It's so much stuff. Seeing these almost like it could be a play, and it just takes place in this one room, basically the whole time with a little bit of setting change. And it's the kind of the claustrophobia of it all, is where you put all these people in one room and it's almost like a pressure cooker, and the sides are getting closer together. And I love, when things start to pop like between them. And even though something like Hateful Eight, something that would take place in a small area, if you have the right kind of characters and the right kind of background, I mean, anything can happen. I think a movie like this is evident. And there's another really good one that I always love to throw out. It's called Man from Earth. It's a sci-fi movie. It's really good. It all takes place in one room. It's really excellent. I have name dropped that so many times on this fucking podcast. You need to give me some kind of check.
I've not seen that. Yeah, you have converted another.
Right. It's fucking excellent, man. And it took them like 10 years to make a sequel to it. And it's got like Tony Todd in it, William Catt, like a bunch of like good old school actors, but there's something about that single setting, that Reservoir Dogs kind of, characters in one room, and we have a situation that's happened, and this is exactly, where this is how it's going to unfold. And that's the kind of shit that I dig, and I love the one room setting like kind of shit. I don't know what it is that's so interesting about that, because I guess people think that it would be easier, but it's probably a fucking lot harder.
Way
especially
harder. Yeah.
Yeah. And 12 actors in this. I was like, holy shit. I mean, and like 90% of them are in this room the whole time. But it just I thought it was a really, really excellent movie. It's more suspenseful. It's more, and especially as Will goes on and just says shit that he says, and you're like, God damn it, dude, stop. It's so awkward. It's so fucking awkward. You feel for him by the end of it. You're like, you poor bastard. And oh my God.
But there are those moments that it could explode out where you're like, he's the only person in the room who said it. He's the only person acknowledging the weirdness of all of this sometimes, which I'm like, oh, I'm glad somebody's fucking saying it.
Right. Well, it's also, it's a group of people trying to see the best in like all of these situations that have happened. And yeah, there's this whole thing kind of feels like an exercise in the social contract. It's like when it's just the things that, you wouldn't say something like that, or everyone's being very, very polite. And the most unbelievable thing about this movie is that people are that patient and like understanding about shit. Like the amount of like semi mudslinging that starts happening after a while, and like calling people crazy and calling them out on this bullshit stuff. Is like, dude, there's no way. Like, these people are way too fucking. Maybe it's just because I'm from the South, but like I'm like, these people are way too fucking chill. But yeah, I just I really enjoyed it. There was something about it that it felt different from a lot of other stuff. And not that just makes it good because it feels different, but sometimes it can be a breath of fresh air. It was not a Conjuring. It was not a Saw movie. It was, it was something different. And that's where I really enjoy stuff like Get Out. Didn't really enjoy Us as much as I enjoyed Get Out, but I just think Zohab absolutely loved it, and I think that it's a very good movie, but it's just not my kind of like horror movie. Get Out, I think, was just like, holy shit, this is awesome. The thing about this movie is the kind of, like I said, it's the thing that it's like putting all these ingredients in a casserole and then just putting it in the oven and then turning the heat up. And all the elements, all the characters, all the situation is what kind of, it's like watching atoms bump around under my, it's just everything's bouncing off each other and these different things are happening. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And who are these people? And why is that chick not have any fucking underwear on? And she's staring at him through the door. Like, what the hell is going on? And like, do you watch Castle Rock? Have you checked that out at all on Hulu?
I have not. I keep meaning to. Yeah,
man, it's good. We're like 3 or 4 episodes in. I can't believe I hadn't gotten on it earlier because fucking I'd suck Stephen King's cock, you know?
Right. It's like Stephen King's, Marvel's cinematic universe, right? It's like all his shit
right.
tossed into a bucket.
Right, it's like the Dark Stanley universe. But it's a good show, but you can tell they end up leaving me with a lot of questions that, I know it's a television show and eventually those will be answered, but at the same time, I kind of sit there like, all right, I feel like you're setting up a lot more that I can even like remember right now. And I love the way that this kind of teases you. It's like, it's just giving you the tip. That's all it just gives you the tip, like right until about the last 15 minutes. And that's where shit really takes off. But yeah, I mean, that's my kind of opening thoughts on it. I don't want to load blowage and whatnot. So, I mean, do you want to go ahead and jump into this shit?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. I feel like if I start rambling, I'm just going to go through 20 minutes are going to go by and I'll be like, and that moment when they finally smashed her on Carol Lynch. Okay, well, shit, I've said everything I have to say about this movie. Whoops. I'm ready.
Sorry. A word. I mean, basically, and at first when this movie started, I was like, is my screen broke? It's just this white screen, forgot. And I tapped the button. I was like, oh, okay, no, holy shit. But we open up with, again, this guy who looks so much like fucking Tom Hardy. I just call him shitty Tom Hardy now. I can't think. It's so fucked up because he's a good actor.
He's good.
Logan Marshall Green. And actually what's weird is he's from South Carolina. Went to university. Really? Yeah. Went to University of Knoxville. So hit both of our states. I was like, oh shit. And I was like, that's kind of crazy.
Oh, he's from Charleston. Shit. I just looked that up.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. But yeah, we're kind of right off the bat, we're introduced to Will and Kira. They're kind of talking about, seeing David and Eden, they haven't seen him in 2 years, and I like the sense that they give of Will, like right off the bat. He seems kind of like, I don't know, not cold, but just he's there, but not all the way there. He's just distant. You can tell he wants to be there, but he just can't. And that's what I really dug about it at first, is not this just overly morose or like, he's kind of caught in the middle of exactly where he should feel. And I didn't get that like just immediately right off the rip, but I was like, there is this like quiet sadness about him that's just echoes perfectly. I think, what do you think of him, Logan Marshall Green, in this?
Honestly, dude, I was just like with you. I saw this and had never really seen him in anything else before. And ever since seeing this movie, I'm like, when am I going to see him starring in more stuff? Like, I think personally, I think he's got it. Like, he's kind of got leading man potential written all over him. I think he's really strong in this. And I'm kind of baffled that I haven't seen him in more things. I still need to see Upgrade because I saw that come out and I was like, oh shit, he's the star in this one. And I mean, I'm rooting for him because I think he's excellent in this movie. And kind of to piggyback off of what you said, I think he does a really good job being this person who is trying. Like, he's unsteady. He's not all the way there. He's definitely not healed and normal and beyond grieving anymore, but he's trying. Like, you kind of always get that sense about him. He's like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do the thing I know I'm supposed to do and just try to keep going, keep, one step at a time. Like, he's very much that. He almost seems like, somebody who's recovered from addiction, but they're only like 5 months out of it. And they're like, I'm there, but I still have to like say no to things. And I'm still trying to shed friendships and I'm just not all the way into it. And he's trying, he's plodding along. And I think this opening is fantastic because you even kind of get the sense between the two of them. This is a somewhat newer relationship between them. And maybe even the idea that Kira got, that they got this invitation and Kira was the one who was kind of like, we should try and go. You should do that. That would be a good thing to like see your wife again for the first time in 2 years and try to help, find some, closure to all of this and help move on. And he's kind of reluctantly going along with it. And to be honest, I don't want to say it all here, but that was one of my favorite surprises about this movie was how much more it was actually about his grief than anything else. Him and his wife both, like they're grieving of their son that we come to find out about, and that's really kind of at heart of this whole situation, and that's very slowly revealed, just like the horror is very slowly revealed. And I love it. But yeah, dude, like you said, I mean, I think Logan Marshall Green is excellent in this. And to be honest, I think everybody is good in this movie. That's another one of its real strong suits, is that the cast is solid. Like they're all, the chemistry feels real. The interactions feel real. I feel like they react like real people would react. I mean, we have a few moments, and I've jotted mine down as well too, where I'm like, if I were at that party and that happened, I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, bye.
Fuck yes.
Like I've got a couple of those, but overall, I think it manages to tread that balance of, these are all friends who've known each other for a long time, and they also haven't seen each other in a long time. They're really trying to make this one night work, and they're probably being even more patient than they would on a normal night. And they're really just trying to be like, okay, this kind of sucks, but I'm going to stick in here. I'm going to stay with it for the sake of my friends. And I think that's pulled off well. I think everybody manages that tension of, it's not even the tension of, I want to get away from this. It's, I don't want to be here and it's uncomfortable, but I do genuinely care about at least most of these people, and I don't want to disappoint them, and I want to be there for them. And it's a beautiful tension because it holds everybody there when they know they want to get out of it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what's like the feeling of the social contract. You know, it's like the feeling of like, I would have to be cool with you, but because we're such good friends, like I can't just be like, all right, fuck this, I'm leaving. You know, it's not like some dude just spilled beer on your shoes at a party. It's like, you know, it's your friend.
Sorry about your dead kid. Whatever, I'm out of here.
Right. Yeah. It's, you know, oh, you're part of a new religion. Yeah, fuck that shit. And it like there is this level of like, and Miguel says it really well. Or later on, he's like, I'm not judging her. And I love that line because that's exactly like it sums up. And especially in the kind of like social cultural climate that we have now, you know, like as long as nobody's really hurting anybody or, you know, or anybody else, like it's like, cool, believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. That's cool. You know, it might be weird, but like, side note, I met an Amish person for the first time yesterday. I went to a farmer's market and I was like, this is strange. I was like, thank you. And we got like some ferns and some apple pies and shit. And I was like, this is odd. I've never and not saying that Amish are a cult at all. I'm just saying like, it's super interesting. Just like walking down the street and be like, there's an Amish farmer's market here. that's kind of strange.
But Colin really bungled it when he leaned in. He's like, this is an iPhone. This is how we do. This is an emoji.
It was really strange because my girlfriend's wearing a Stranger Things t-shirt and there was like these kids who were just kind of staring at her shirt like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, oh, you poor children, you have no idea of the wonders of fucking Stranger Things. But
that's when you say back to your chores.
No, yeah, the thing like right off the rip is, and what's great about the dialogue here, you're getting information but it doesn't feel like exposition. You know, he talks about how, you know, they've been divorced. You know, she's obviously on with this guy, David. He thinks they're overcompensating over the, you know, like you immediately get the feeling, like you said, this he's just kind of a man going through the motions. There's this reluctiveness to, I guess if that's even a word. There's this reluctance. There we go. Jesus Christ, Colin, fucking idiot. There's this reluctance to be a part of it all. And like, I think that's perfect. Like you said, Kira's probably like, oh no, we should go and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, just show that, you know, there's no hard feelings or anything, but he's like, man, I'm just not. I mean, it's only been 2 years. I think it's just like too soon to go. 2 years and you start walking around that house again and shit. I'm like, no, I don't think so, man. I just more power to you, but like I don't think I would have the strength to do that shit. I'm like, no, I need like 10 or 12 and then I'll be back maybe later on. But yeah, so they're driving around and they hit this fucking coyote. Like it seems so random to me at first, you know, because I'm just trying to figure out where the fuck this movie is going on. But the second time that I watched it, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting because it's kind of, and I mean, I don't want to get too like, oh, it's an analogy for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think when you look at it in like a direct way, it's like, oh, and it's an analogy for their marriage, you know, like when he's talking to David later on, David's like, oh, yeah, that was a mercy killing. You put it out of its misery. It's like, oh, yeah, like you put my wife's marriage out of her misery with your cock. Oh, thanks, David. That's fucking appreciated, dude.
You mercifully put our marriage in a coffin. Thanks.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Him hitting this coyote? Like, what do you think is the relevance of it? Because I feel like I was straining for something. I was like, I'm not getting anything like direct. You know what I mean?
You know, it's funny that you say that because this is probably the 7th or 8th time I've seen this movie at this point. And on my first and kind of probably even second and third viewing, I wasn't really sure what to make of this. I was like, this is just sort of a tone setter in a sense of like, we're actually going to wander into a lot more of a dark and violent moment than we're prepared for. And it's going to come out of nowhere. And that's kind of how I took it. But honestly, now with this most recent viewing, I kind of see it as more of a little bit of an exploration of Will's character, that he's the one who gets out of the car and he knows immediately what he needs to do. He's like, all right, like a lot of people, I think it should be noted, a lot of people just wouldn't do this. They would just drive away from it. They would just be upset. Yeah. They would just, let's just not look at it. Let's just keep driving. Like he gets out, he goes over and he not only hits it, he pulls it out from under the car. It's like, yelping and wounded, pulls it out from under the car, lines it up and hits it twice with a tire iron to kill it. That's a type of person who I for one, I interpret it as he's willing to kind of push through the hard part of trauma and pain. Like he'll face it. As much as we see him having struggles with dealing with trauma and grief throughout this movie, I think this opener is actually a little bit of an allusion to the fact that he'll pull the trigger as well. Like he can face down some of the nastier stuff, and we see that happen later on. And I think that's how I take it now, that he's kind of the person willing to go all the way and even be violent when he needs to.
No, yeah, like he can rise to that challenge. I think because he seems so questioning of himself and what is this new situation that I'm in, and like what the fuck is going on? Because obviously shit is just like not settled yet. And again, 2 years, not long enough. I'm like, nah, I'll come back later. I can't do this in fucking 2 years.
I'm going to go ahead and clock a decade and I'll see you then. Bye.
Yeah, right. I'll see you in 2029. But no, yeah, so they hit this coyote. I like what you said, like taking away from that. Sometimes I'm like, what does this mean? And I'm stretching. I'm like, nah, that's not it. Like, so I was real curious because honestly, I was just like blank. I was like, I do not know what the fuck to make of this thing. Like, is it a mercy killing? Is it blah, blah? But I like that interpretation of it. Well, they finally arrive at the house. I love this. As soon as he walks in the door, it's showing you the illusion, seeing Ty sitting there playing at the table. And it's like, not good, not fucking good, man. Like right off the rip. I mean, you can't blame the guy. I get it. But it's like right off the rip, if you see some shit like that, I'm like, I am fucking out of here, man. Like I cannot handle that.
So heavy.
Well, and especially like right after that, he was like, oh, here's this group of people. Try to bottle that in. It's like, oh, fuck, man. Like, I couldn't do that, man. But, they arrive at the house. There's, all their friends. And I'm just going to read this cast off really quick because if I don't, so we've got Will, David, Eden, Pruitt, Sadie, Kira, Gina, Claire. There's Toby Huss, who's Dr. Joseph, who's on fucking King of the Hill. And he's the king from Seinfeld, like the mattress king guy. I'm the Wiz. Like that fucking guy is Dr. Joseph, like the leader of everything.
Dude, he's also on a show. I don't know if you've ever watched it because fucking nobody has. It seems like Halt and Catch Fire. Is it AMC
I've heard
show?
of it.
Oh, dude, it's such a good show. And he's like one of the main characters on there. And he's fucking fantastic. He's somebody I want to see more of as well.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of shit. There's also Tommy, Miguel, Ben, and Choi, who's fucking in this movie for like 2 minutes. But yeah, we're introduced to a lot of these people right off the rip. Choi isn't quite there. That's one of the things that they end up talking about, and it kind of ends up being a stickler for later on. And I love the setup of that to the payoff. About the midway point probably is when shit really hits the fan. Or a little bit after that. And I love the setup here in the first fucking like 5-10 minutes. We're like, where is this dude? He was supposed to be here forever ago.
Dude, this movie is so good at introducing its mysteries carefully and quickly. Like it doesn't make a big deal about them. They're just like, oh yeah, where's Troy? Anyways, I don't know. And that just starts to become a recurring thing of, wait, where is Troy though? Like he's still not here. He's still not here. He hasn't called. What's going on? And that just keeps coming back up and keeps building from something totally innocuous to something extremely concerning. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like this. It's like a flare up of it. Like it dies down, it flares up, it dies down, and eventually the roots of that, the seeds of that actually end up like sowing something about half or 3/4 of the way through the movie, and you're like, oh fuck, like that's a big fucking deal because that's one thing this movie does great is like, is this guy full of shit or is something really going on? Is he just acting paranoid? Like, like what the fuck is, and the unreliable narrator kind of thing is what's so awesome about this. And I think this would be a great book. This would be a fucking fantastic book. Just like you said, is so much about this not really being about the invitation and the cult whatever of it. It's about this guy's grief. And I think that that's paramount in this, because if you just take a movie where it's like, oh yeah, I'm not grieving. I'm just some dude and think this shit's going down. That's a terrible movie. That does not sound good. But interwoven with this like subplot of what he's going through and stuff, it's great. It's really good direction and misdirection at the same time. They're kind of like misdirect and sending you in, it leaves you chasing your own tail. And I fucking love that about this movie.
And I think what's something really especially intelligent about that, and I 100% agree with you. I think that's one of the movie's real strengths is the movie gets you to question the main character's point of view. And also the main thing about that though is that the main character, Will, the entire movie is essentially from his point of view. We never, if you'll notice, I've watched this, I feel like just enough times now to finally be able to say some of these things of like, we don't see anybody else's point of view in this movie. We don't ever cut to a shot of what David is seeing and what David is plotting on his own time or what Eden is like. Nope. It's all from Will's point of view. And that's a perfect, for one, representation of the claustrophobia that everybody in the situation is feeling. They're all stuck in this place. They all only know what they know, and they're having to make assumptions about these fucking new weirdos in their lives. But the other part of that is that it gets you as the audience member to question the motives of, especially Eden and David and Pruitt and Sadie. They're very strange. And at the same time, over the course of the movie, you start to also question Will. And you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe he is actually more unstable than we first thought because we know he's grieving. We know he's handling it poorly. And maybe his mind isn't as stable as we first thought. Maybe he's not the reliable narrator / protagonist that we took him for in the beginning. But also the cool thing about that, too, including that grief and that trauma as part of his character and part of the story, is that it makes it very understandable that other characters also kind of question his judgment at times. They're like, well, yeah, Will, I know you're worried about this or you see something wrong in David, but it is kind of, well, David is now married to your wife and you lost a son to her. Like there are other reasons that you might be feeling paranoid other than the things you're scared of. And so it makes people question him and it makes us question him. And that's just such a great tension that I feel like is kept at a pretty solid balance through almost the entire movie, where anytime you're finally like, okay, no, Will's right. These people are fucking crazy. They're going to kill everybody. And then all of a sudden, in the next 2 minutes, you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe Will's fucking crazy. I'm not sure. Like you always come back to questioning it. And I feel like that mirrors Will's feelings. It mirrors the other characters' feelings. It makes us feel what they're all feeling. And I love when a movie can really do that. I feel like a lot of times people toss out that whole notion of, and the movie puts you in the character's shoes just because, oh, I don't know, the camera cuts to literally their point of view as they look down at the ground or something. And I'm like, that's not enough. Like, we need to be able to feel the same things they're feeling and feel what other people in the movie feel towards them. And I feel like this movie accomplishes that really well.
Right. Yeah. Everybody feels very, very fleshed out, and like everybody feels very patient. Everybody's very understanding. They're like, listen, well, this is a night of, we haven't seen each other in 2 years. We all really miss each other. And like you said, if it ends up, we tolerate a little bit more bullshit than normal or something's weird, it's just, we just need to we have to tolerate that because there's people here who are grieved. Two of our best friends lost a kid. One of them's remarried. There's a lot of different shit going on now. And it's kind of like, it's almost a sign of like maturity in a way. It's like, be mature about this. Like, be a civil adult about this and understand that, like, shit happens and it's nothing personal, and your wife, she's happy. I mean, it sucks that you guys got a divorce and you guys lost this kid, but they're happy, and it's like this refusal to move on for that because he's like, you haven't, I don't know, it's almost like in a way Will's very like, you haven't grieved like I'm grieving, like I have not seen this transformation in you, and that's what's so interesting about it. He's like I said, he's very kind of like a guy moving through the motions, but he's got this, I don't know, this kind of like a bit, I mean, obviously a bitterness, but like, I love when he meets Ben here and he's like, oh, hey, yeah, you remember me, Ben? We drove a thriving business into the ground together. And he's like, it was never thriving. he's very like, his humor is very flat, I
love that. Oh, dude, what? Real quick, too, it's something I never, ever caught until this viewing, and I don't want to go too far past it. I got to bring it up to you now because I was like, oh, that's such a nice piece of dialogue. There's a moment when Kira and Will are still outside, and they're talking about how, David actually met Eden while they were in their grief support group, while technically Eden and Will were still married. And Will's like, yeah, people were probably taking odds on our divorce. And Kira gets like offended. She's like, oh, people don't think that way. Like, that's not how people do. And then the very next thing that happens, they go inside and everybody's like, he made it. He did come. I win. Like, they put a bet on whether he'd come or not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a cool moment that is that it really shows like Kira has this very solid idea of people of like, well, that's not how people actually act, but that is how those people actually acted. Like, I think a real core to this movie's specific type of horror is never truly being able to know any other person's intentions. Like, you are always not fully aware. Like, you might think you know somebody very, very well, but at the end of the day, anybody outside of your own skull, you don't fully know. You can't fully trust any invitation. Like, it's something you're having to kind of trust, and you don't quite know what people's angle are. And I just love them being so sure of people's notions and being so wrong. Like, that's such a great bit of dialogue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it feels like, the social no, that's not the way you do that. No, that's just not how it is. Like, we're all adults and we're very civil about this. And it's like, yeah, but no, we're still shitty. We're still shitty humans on our two shitty legs walking around.
We're still hairless monkeys that bash each other's heads in with rocks. It happens, you know?
Right. But, like, we get introduced to everybody, they're as well, especially right off the rip here, when we see Eden, and you're like, you are smiling way too fucking much. Like, there's something very odd. It makes me think of Lewis Black in that movie with Robin Williams, when Robin Williams becomes president. I can't remember the name of it.
I've never seen that.
It's oh my god, I think I can't remember the name. It's really, really, really funny. But Lewis Black and like Christopher Walken are like his campaign managers, and they're one of the presidential candidates.
Shit, how have I never seen this?
Man of the Year, that's what it's called, Man of the Year, and it's got like Laura Linney and Robin Williams and Christopher Walken and Lewis Black, and Lewis Black takes one look at this fucking presidential candidate, and he's like, this guy smiles so much, it's starting to actually upset me. And I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. It's like, this woman is smiling so much, it's like unnerving. I don't know what it is about it. And it seems like she seems so happy and so nice, but it seems so paper thin to me. I think that's what kind of scares me. There's this underlining menace to like just, and she plays it so well, and it's not even, it's very, very subtle, but there is this kind of like, this, I could see this woman coming at me with like a knife. Like, she kind of she kind of scares the shit out of me a little bit.
Or even just like, I even when she's laughing and she's supposedly happy, like there's a part of me that just thinks she's going to burst into tears at any second. Like, she's just on the verge of weeping, but she's like, everything's fine. But like, you are not okay.
Like the veins in her forehead and shit like this, just like perpetual veins coming out of her forehead. I'm like, all right, lady, you're straining. Like, you better calm down. But so yeah, we're basically, we're introduced to everybody. God, when fucking like David comes up and hugs, like, dude, that's just, again, that might be the first time I'm leaving, when like when my ex-wife's new husband comes up and it's like, wait, man, and gives me a hug, and they even kind of like look alike with like the beard and the hair, like looking across from each other. It's like, oh, this is, I mean, not at all in the face, but like looking across them, it's like, oh yeah, she definitely has a type. as I'm looking at it. But no, it's just very, man, I get it. And, you want to be an adult about it and you want to be civil, but like, that is just, I don't know if I could do that. I just, that would be very weird. Like, there's nothing like, oh, hey, I saw you in public. Hey, how you guys doing? That's cool. Like, I'm not going to like spit at you or anything, but like, that is just so awkward, man.
Well, it's also just weird of that, like, essentially he mentions that he ran into them at a grocery store, and that's how they like first were kind of reconnected, and then they sent them this invitation. But I'm like, you wouldn't, like, your very first real conversation with your ex-wife's now husband, new husband, very first conversation in front of a whole bunch of people at a party. That's weird. Like, don't you guys want to, like, I don't know, get a coffee first? Like, maybe get to know each other?
Right. Well, especially once they start bringing in like Sadie and Pruitt, and you're like, where the fuck are these jabronis? So yeah, basically all of her friends are reunited here. We see their bond. Eden sees Will, she wipes the blood off of his face. I like that kind of like maternal, very, oh, you're a mess, let me clean you. Yeah, immediately you can tell she's like gone into old habits, like very quickly, totally. It seems. Mm-hmm. They're talking about the, enjoying the pleasures while they have them. David coming on a fucking little bit strong, which is kind of weird. And I like the fact that Will doesn't accept any of their drinks.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
Totally.
There's something about that I was like, is that something that he's just thinking like, I'm not in the right mind frame to be drinking right now? Or, there's not any kind of like evidence to that, but I do think it's interesting that he never accepts any alcohol or all these people enjoying wine and spirits, but he's like, I'm dead inside. I don't want anything. I don't want any of that shit. Right. And I like David here being, cracking open these really nice bottles of wine. And everyone's like, oh, you can. Oh, no way. He's like, oh, nope, sorry. Here I am opening it up. We should enjoy these pleasures while we have them. And it's like, oh, that's fucking, when you know the ending, it's like, that is, I love movies that on the second watch around, you see something and then like, man, that foreshadows like so enjoy what we got it because you're all gonna fucking die
because this is it.
Right. And they all toast. Will doesn't accept the drink, but then he sees Sadie down the hall, which is like, holy shit, that's so unnerving. Like seeing this girl with no underwear on just staring at you through the door, like, who the fuck are you? Like,
right. And I love that Will is the only one who sees her. Like he's the only person. Like, so he's already put in that awkward social situation of like, am I gonna say who's that naked girl down the hall? Or am I just gonna try to ignore this? And then she immediately runs into the room, clothed and is like, oh, hello, everyone. So you're like, the moment's passed. Like now if I bring it up, I'm weird. Like it's that weird social politicking thing of like, well, what do I say about it now? I guess I'll just let it pass. It's weird.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, just imagine if this was like real life and you just look over and he looks and sees her down the hall. He's like, the fuck? That'd be the first thing out of my mouth. I'd be like, or, oh my God, this is so awkward. I shouldn't have looked in that person's room. But then she's just staring at him like, oh yeah. It's like, okay, no, that's where I'd be like, why the fuck are you looking at me? Like, there's no way I could just ignore that. That's so fucking awkward.
Also, I just want to make sure I help to further this term in the world. She is in that moment too, doing something I like to call Winnie the Poohing it, where she's just shirt on top and naked on bottom. Just Winnie the Poohing it.
Looking like when you're a fucking 4-year-old kid and you put on like a real long t-shirt, just like running around.
Like, it's good enough.
Yeah, fuck it. But yeah, so then she comes out, like you said, she's fully clothed. She's like, oh, hey, and their explanation for why she's there is so odd. They're like, oh yeah, she lives here just to like help us out. And it's like, help with what? Like what is it that you do exactly?
Did she cut the grass? Like what?
Right. Yeah. It right away. This is feeling Manson. As soon as she popped up, yeah. I was like, fucking Manson. I was like, this is weird.
And dude, on first watch, I was very torn with her character because I'm like, you give me a sprightly half-naked hippie girl, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of there. I'm kind of there for it. I'm actually into this. Yeah. But then the moment she starts talking, I'm like, oh, you are fucking crazy. Like, oh, right. God, no. Like, I don't trust anything you do.
You're like 2 steps off from like a Sherry Moon zombie from fucking Devil's Rejects type shit. There's something about that vibe. It's just like a very like dirty, sexy, scary kind of vibe.
Dude, literally, you nailed it. Those are the dirty, sexy, scary. You're like, she's going to like jump onto you out of nowhere and startle you, but she's also naked and kind of aggressively hot. And you're like, whoa, this is cool. But then she like puts a pistol under your mouth and you're like, wait, what? Like, I'm so horny and scared. I don't know what to do.
I'm crying for my eyes and my dick. What's happening? So yeah, Will asks if he can go, walk around, or I'm sorry, and I don't want to cut too far before that is where they're talking about the mercy killing of that was, that's exactly what you should have done. And I think this is also something by David. I think David does believe this, but right away we're seeing David as being like, that's a good thing you did, man. Good for you. Like he kind of feels like he's trying to make some kind of ground with Will and kind of get on the same page about it. And I think there's something interesting about the fact that David is like, no, what you did is right. That's exactly what you should do. And we see that there can possibly even be similarities between these guys, which is interesting.
Well, that's, dude, I feel like that's actually something we should talk about. To talk about it from from the point of view of having seen this movie before, humble listener out there who has already watched this movie before listening to the podcast, as you should. I think an interesting thing to come back on is I do actually believe David and Eden and Pruitt as far as their intention of we want everyone here to be happy. Like we actually do want to make everyone happy and feel comfortable. And we want to have this like lovely night together and drink wine and actually share stories and get really honest and have these nice connections and these beautiful moments. It's kind of like kindred and communion and then peacefully die together. Like that's what they want. Like at the end of the day, I think I do believe them in the sense of like, they didn't want to go into carnage and murder. I think it's just the fact that Pruitt was like, well, now that it's happened, I'm the guy who will continue it. Like, fuck it. We'll kill everybody. But I think that's another layer to it that makes it that much weirder, is that I do think they're genuine in the sense of we do actually want to connect to you guys. We just also we're just also part of a death cult. So that's our thing. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But like, they do actually want that in a creepy, mixed up way.
Right. It's like it's kind of like, I heard this paradox once of like, if you're chopping onions with somebody and you accidentally stab them versus you turn around and like hold them down and stab them, it's the same action but with like totally different intentions. And like the intent is everything. Yes, it's this horrible thing and you're killing these people. And I know like this is I know this is kind of disconcerting it now, but like when you look at it at a more in-depth level, I'm not saying I agree with it at all, but it is like you have to admit that they are like, no, I want you to be happy. This is how you're going to be happy. That being said, I have just recently joined a death. No, I'm just kidding.
I would like you to hear my pitch for the death cult. We're actually we're way more honest. We don't call it the invitation. We just call it death cult.
Yeah, we call it the extermination. No, but Will goes. He's looking around. They also. Oh yeah, this is also where they already toasted and shit. They toast. Oh yeah, here's to new beginnings and all that other peace and all that other bullshit. I don't know what. But Will goes and looks around. Right away, we're kind of seeing the Eden. She's already moved on. She's in white. She's in this like long, like kind of like breezy like gown. She seems very free. There's something about that. This flower child almost kind of like kind of conjuration that comes to your head.
Right.
But Will is he's stuck in neutral. Like the shaggy kind of beard, the longer hair gives me a feeling of like. I know you're from Portland. That probably doesn't sound like shit, but like, I'm like, man, he does seem kind of like unkempt, like he doesn't seem like he's really gives a shit, in a way. It's kind of odd. Even his like clothing of choice, like the browns and the darker colors and the grays. Like I really like that, where everybody else versus like this red and the white and yellow is in like these darker kind of colors, which I thought is interesting. Yeah. And when they go to the kitchen, Will goes in there, we see this kind of, I guess, flashbacks to Eden's suicide attempt, right?
Dude,
like, holy shit.
So intense. And one of my favorite things about this movie is the score. I think the score is phenomenal. It's excellent. Like the twisting sort of like Hitchcockian strings that are going behind him, drinking this water and just trying to hold it together as he's having this horrible fucking, vivid memory of his wife trying to kill herself right there at this sink that he's standing at. It's fantastic.
Well, yeah, and just this whole scene is like, again, one of those things where it's like, well, my son used to live here and he's dead, and I'm standing in the kitchen with the person who slit their wrists in the fucking sink, and that's really awkward. Like, there's just too many like. Oh man, there's too many bad memories in this house for me to like, I'm just going to stay here. Like, fuck that, man. I don't know. There's something about that that's very, I'm like, I'm packing my shit and fucking moving up. Like, I don't give a shit how nice this house is. Like, not fucking staying here anymore. But they kind of, they talk one-on-one in the kitchen. She's, do you worry about me? Do you think about me? And he's like, yeah. Of course, like you were my wife, goddammit.
Dude, yeah, dude, I love that you picked up on that, because that is such an odd, it is such, if you just see those words on paper, it's a very normal exchange of like, have you thought about me? But the way they act, it's like purely acting choices, I think makes it so strange, because she asks it like she's a fucking high school girl being like, so have you thought about me? Tee-hee. And he's like, yes, right. Of course I have. We were married and we had a child who died. Like, what do you? Of course I've thought about it. Like, what? Were you crazy? Like, they each exchange. They have that exchange within such different mindsets. It's such a great display of how far away from each other they are as people.
Right. Yeah. There's something. It almost seems like she's reverting back from this like adult kind of stage. Like, she's just very. I don't know, like you said, there's this giddiness, like right away where he's like, yeah, of course I worried about you. She's like, oh, well, I found this new thing. You don't have to worry about me at all anymore. And blah, blah, blah. Like, she changes gears so fast that it's like, it's like whiplash. You're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, where are we going with this now? Yeah. And I love, she's kind of sticking this branch out. She's like, I want you to experience this too. My pain, like my pain is gone. I want you to experience this with me. And that's when Ben, a.k.a. Mr. Comic Relief, shows up, which is like, thank God. I would hang out with this dude the whole night. I'm like,
yeah. I'd be like, dude, can we just like find the whiskey and just chill in the corner over here? Like these fucking LA weirdos.
Right. You guys have like a foosball table somewhere, like something we can just hang out. Like, and it drives me crazy because there's like, very rarely is there any kind of like music in the background or anything. I'm like, dude, put some fucking music on or something, please. Like, put on Frasier in the background. I don't care. Like, I gotta have something, like some kind of noise in the background. This is so weird. But yeah, like I said, Ben comes in, he breaks up all the seriousness. He starts to question Eden about the shit she's saying. She fucking pops him, dude. You're like, whoa.
See, okay, so two things there. I actually love the way he kind of questions her on this because, you know, she's all like, all those negative emotions, grief, anger, depression, they're purely physical responses and they're totally changeable. And he's like, you sound like a pamphlet. And I'm like, glad somebody said it because that's some weird shit to just be all like spewing out. But dude, that moment when she pops him across the face, that is and we're done. I'm out. I'm like, I'm leaving.
Yes.
Dude, if I'm Ben, especially, I'm like, bye. I'll fucking never see you again. I'm out of here. We're done. Like, you just hit me in the face. What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying. The most unbelievable thing is how nice and patient and understanding all of these people are. It's like, no, let me tell you something. People suck.
See, see, dude, that's actually, I agree with you. Like, I think this is one of the few real flaws in the movie. They overplay their hand right here for a second where she slaps him. I'm like, all they had to do, because I'm like, that's a step too far. Like you already said, like people would fucking bounce after that. It'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? We're out of here. But I wish they had just stuck with her dialogue in that moment because, you know, he slaps her, or she slaps him after she's like, it sounds fucking crazy. And she's all like, well, you know, you should listen to people, or that's why nobody takes you seriously. Nobody cares about like what you think about because you make everything into a joke. And I'm like, she could have just turned to him and gave him the, you know, the dead eye and said that to him. And that would be something that is uncomfortable, yet people would still, they would stay. But I'm like, the slap is like, you overplayed it. Like, that's a little too far. Cause I mean, like, I feel like even Will would be like, okay, you're fucking crazy. I'm out of here.
Right. Well, and I get like we want to show how serious that she is about this shit. You know, she's offended. Yeah, that's like coming in and being like, "Oh, nice cross on the wall, you fucking homo!" Like some crazy shit. It's like, dude, like that's like you can tell her seriousness about this shit. And I think that's what's so interesting. Is like I get it. You want to set the level of like she's gonna pop you for even saying this shit. But it's like, if there's anybody in this group you can pop and get away with it, it's Ben. Like, Ben's the one that, like, you can wait. Right. You've got that friend who's just kind of like this lumbering, you know, goofy dude who's so sweet, you know, which is fucking half my makeup. But,
you heard it here first, everybody. Colin likes to be slapped in the face. Treat him like dog shit.
Colin's a big uncoordinated fuck, and he likes to be hit in the face. No, there is something kind of like doofusy about him that's endearing, though. You know, right. You know, I love when they're having this conversation and he's talking about, you know, like you said, you know, that's why nobody cares about what you think. You know, he and Will start talking about the good old days, how Ben and his wife hate each other, and he's like, you know, but the sex. So angry. It's like it is hard to take him seriously, you know. It's a
great moment, yeah.
Right. It'd be different if fucking Eden popped up and like slapped Miguel in the face. You'd be like, "What the fuck, man? Like, what is wrong with you?" But yeah, I like this. I like this reminiscing of the good old days, how him and his wife hate each other, and I like that Will. This is one of the few times that Will actually kind of like laughs, like he smiles, like like the rest of the movie. It's always very polite. Small, quiet, quaint kind of smiles that he does. And I love it. Like the way he acts as somebody who's in the process of still like mourning and stuff. He reminds me of somebody that I knew, and they had lost, I think it was their wife or it might have actually been one of their kids, somebody I worked with. And I remember like seeing this person be like, God, that's so sad. And watching The Invitation made me think, I was like, oh my God, that is so fucking eerily similar. It's crazy. His portrayal of it is so well done. And I think what's so interesting here is, you know, when they're chatting about the good old days and all this other stuff, it's kind of that one moment where we've broken the tension, but Will has become more comfortable because somebody at least has said something about it now. Somebody is like, okay, this is weird, right? Like you can tell it's kind of, I feel like he seems not more power down, not like he's like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's still on high alert, but he's like, okay, you're on high alert with me though. Like you are kind of picking up what I'm putting down. This is fucking crazy. Yeah, I like that, you know, Will sees, not Ben, I put Ben, not his fucking name, David.
Oh, yeah.
Will seeing David on the cell phone as he's talking, and he's like, oh, I thought we didn't get good reception out here. Like, what the fuck? And it's so weird that they're telling them to, like, you know, oh, yeah, you don't get good reception. You got to go outside or something. But here he is, like, in the house. So we've, like, right off the rip, we're at, like, the fucking We're at the 20-minute mark. 20 minutes. We have established almost all of these characters. Not very, I mean, there's even still to the end. I mean, there's 12 characters. Do I know everything about fucking
Gina
Miguel?
or Miguel.
Yeah, or yeah. I don't know anything about that shit. So it's kind of like they for how much shit they have to go through with the characters, with the backdrop of Eden and Will, in 20 minutes, they have all of this shit set up to where something the fucking is going on with Eden. That's crazy. And then we see David on the phone, and it's just the way it's shot. You're looking at this like it's a suspicious shot. It's kind of like, who the fuck are you talking to, man? Like, it's weird. You're off on the other side of the room, like on your phone. It's a party, right? Like, why you got to go to the other side of the room to get on your phone? Because you don't want the people around you to hear what you're saying. And it's like, that's weird. It's like that immediately fucking spooks me out. But I love like this. There is some huge, veiny, big dick energy going on at this door when he locks the door in, and I love. Because, you know, yeah, maybe Will is kind of being an asshole about it, but at the same time, he's still being very polite, and he's just towing the line right there. You know, he's just kind of barely towing the line about this. And this is, by the way, right after Pruitt comes in. We see fucking Mr. Zodiac himself, and we see Pruitt come in. But Pruitt, there's something so odd about him. He just stands in the corner and just watches everybody else.
Dude.
Like he's not very open or, hey, what's going on, guys? Blah, blah. He's just like the guard. It's like, what the fuck?
Right. Dude, what's so great about John Carroll Lynch, and I can't remember, you're not a big Walking Dead guy, are you?
No, but I knew he was in the show. I knew his role and stuff.
Yeah, he was only on the one episode, but he was this guest character who is phenomenal. I think he's the honest to God, the best guest character that's ever been on The Walking Dead. It's John Carroll Lynch. One episode, he's in it, and then he dies at the end of it. Wonderful character. And he's also like this totally different person as he is in this movie. You know, completely gentle, this like kind Buddhist man who like reforms Morgan. He's like this wonderful guy, and he's great in that. But he always, in these moments, in these kinds of roles where he is the darker figure, he just has that presence where he doesn't have to do anything. He's not over there being menacing. He's not glowering at anybody or, holding a knife or anything creepy. Like, he can just be there, and there's just something emanating off of him. You're like, I'm just unnerved by this guy. Like that. You sense all that potential energy in him for violence. You're like, I don't think you're necessarily going to do it, but boy, if it came down to you needing to do it, you would.
Right. And there's something about that big lumbering Hulk of a dude. You're like, dude, this guy, like, and he's not even like, oh my God, he's so big, like Schwarzenegger. He's just a fucking big, intimidating guy.
Big old corn-fed
boy. So, right. Yeah. It's not like a Sons of Anarchy fucking intimidating, like, looking person, but like, it's this very subtle, like, oh my God, dude, there's something about him, especially when he played Arthur Lee Allen in Zodiac. I was like, this guy
so good.
Is amazing. And he got, because I fell down a fucking Zodiac rabbit hole like crazy. And I read a couple of books about it, and we got into like the case files and stuff, and like looking at shit. And it was so interesting. And like hearing about the way Arthur Lee Allen like moved and walked, like what is it? John Carroll Lynch? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. He got Arthur Lee Allen down like perfectly, this lumbering walk and stuff. And it's so subtle. But yeah, he's just the muscle, like, and he's never sitting down around the other people. He's always kind of on the outside. Like he's like a net. He's like catching people.
Ooh,
and that's what's so,
yeah.
That's what's so weirds me out about him. It's like he's kind of like the ace in the hole in the back of, he's on the back burner. It's like, that fucking creeps me out. But yeah, this is where, David and Will kind of get into it about the door, blah, blah. He's like, oh yeah, there's this couple that got burglarized down the street. It really freaked us out, and just try to be super cool. And I love Will. He's just like, all right, what if there's a fire?
Yeah, dude.
And it's like,
so
God.
Good. And also, I love how casual he is where he's like, oh yeah, there was this couple up the street, who actually got burglarized, and they were, terrorized by the people. It really put us on edge. And he's like, I never heard about it. Just like, right. Yeah, I never heard about that shit. You're lying.
Yeah, and I love Tommy. He's like, therefore, it must have never happened. And he just like walks right past. Like, the dialogue is great because you can see Will bringing the seriousness to the table, and everyone kind of be like, fuck, man, get this shit out of here. Let's just have fun.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Right, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is fucking weird seeing somebody lock you in the house and you're like, okay, that is a little bit odd, but it's like everybody else is so off guard that they're not catching these little things. And that's what's so awesome is like it sucks that he's going through this grief and all this horrible shit. But if he were not, all of them would be dead at the end of this fucking thing. And it's like he actually catches this shit. It's like,
yes, that's a good point, man. That's one of those things where I'm like, he's on guard, maybe unreasonably so, but for the situation, it makes sense. He's actually right. If he weren't grieving, if he weren't paranoid, he wouldn't be noticing the things he notices.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, well, I hate it for you, but at the same time, like, you're kind of playing goalie. Like, you're kind of like shutting this shit down before it can even get in. I know that's a crazy analogy, but I like, and I love what David says here. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, sorry, I've just got a different way of keeping house. And it's like, ooh, God, stings. Like, you can just tell that you can tell the way what he says and the way he means it. It comes across. It's like, yeah, this is my house now. You don't live here anymore. And to an extent, he is right. And that's the crazy part. He's like, dude, chill the fuck out, man. Like, we asked you here so everybody could be cool, and you're not being very cool right now, I'm
the one who owns this house and invited all your friends here to die. I'll have the say over the door.
Right, yeah. I know you barely know me, but I'm going to take all the people you've ever loved and cram them in the room and rub it in their face that I live in your house and fuck your wife. It's like, nah, I'm good on that shit, man.
I'm a good guy.
Right. We kind of see after this, Will's, he wants to go look around. And I love this. I love that. Immediately, Eden's going to Kira and being like, "Oh, is he okay? He can be really self-destructive. Because you are pushing away that you don't want people looking at you and David saying, this is weird. What's going on?" You're immediately casting doubt onto him as to what's going on. And I think that she is genuinely concerned, and she probably is right. He probably is self-destructive, but that's not, I think that that's only half of that coin. I think the other half is like, we don't want him like immediately. Imagine, it's kind of like, I don't know, being a spy and your cover is up, like right off the bat. You're like, oh shit, like he caught the fact that something weird is going on. Like he's on high alert. Like we kind of got to fucking keep an eye on this dude. Oh, that's right. Will goes out to get the firewood or whatever. Right. 45% of this movie is him standing outside, staring off and watching something happen. And it's fucking cool. Don't get me wrong. But there are like 3 or 4 scenes that I'm like, okay, that happens right here, not right there. I have to like swap some stuff around because he does. And that's what's another thing that's, if you look at it on a surface level, it's kind of like this dude just goes outside a lot. But at the same time, it's because he can't stand to be in the house. Yeah. He can't stand to be in this house and seeing all of this shit happen. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, dude, that it's such a great moment when he's outside. It's actually one of my favorite like visual moments of the movie when he's outside and he sees the lights of the bedroom turn on. And that's when he sees Eden going into the bedroom by herself and pulling something out of the drawer. Like everything's black for a second. And then you see, their bedroom light, like a little rectangle just come on in the darkness. And then there she is in her little flowing dress, like a fucking creepy ghost, pulling something out of the little nightstand. And he goes in and checks on it. And it's just these unlabeled pills. So good.
Ominous. Fucking so ominous. Like, why do you have unlabeled pills in here? Like, that's weird.
And that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, he's being a little paranoid. He's creeping and all. But if you're somebody who really is just prescribed some medication, this is something you take and it's just something in your medicine cabinet, totally innocuous. I'm like, well, it would have a label. Like you wouldn't peel the label off of your prescription drugs. Like, what? That is weird. That's fucking weird.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of just adding kindling to his fire of like, yeah, you're kind of acting crazy, but there is some subtly weird stuff that's going on. What I think is so interesting is, like you said, he goes outside, he kind of sees her taking these pills. What's really weird, and this is the only thing that fucking weirded me out about this, is we have this flashback of him going through the house. And it's like him and his wife in the bathtub and their kid walks in and you're like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is weird, man. Like, it just weirded me out because as a kid, how is your not reaction to, oh, fuck, no, what the fuck? Like there's no, walking in on your parents in a bathtub, I would scream. Like, there's no way I would be as calm as this kid is. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's 5, but still, it's like, that's weird. Like, that's very odd to me. Like how civil
and tee.
Right. Like just how calm all of them were about it. Like, I don't know. That was so odd.
But what I love about that scene though, like I like that we get to see a moment, because pretty much all the other flashbacks are these like chaotic, awful memories of either when Ty was dying or when Eden was like just in horrible grief over it and trying to kill herself. But we get this one memory of seeing them actually together, like as husband and wife, and smiling and happy and kissing one another. And I think it's a small thing, but it's an important thing to show them that like they were happy, like they were intimate and close, and they used to know each other very well. And that's the thing I think is really important about the rest of the dynamic for this movie, is that they seem almost as if they don't know each other. Whereas in truth, of anybody in the room of this building, they're the two who know each other the most. They know each other extremely intimately, but the way they behave the rest of the movie, it's like they're still figuring each other out again.
Right. Yeah. They've been wired differently now. It's like trying to figure out that wiring is so weird. Still creeped out about the fact that the kid doesn't go in just screaming. I don't know what it is. Like, right. Like just cutting his eyes out with a pair of scissors. Like, but yeah, I like that. Like you said, that flashback and a nice, somewhat calm before the storm, like kind of moment, because everything else from here on out is just going to be a goddamn shit show. But yeah, and I like he goes in and he takes the pills, and there's David walking in being like, hey, come back to us whenever you're ready. And it's like, ooh, man, just the subtle little things of like, hey, get the fuck out of my room. Like, so but I like the scream. He runs back in expecting something to have happened. Like there's almost like this. I mean, naturally, I feel like most people will run towards a scream like that, but I feel like just him being on high alert, like I feel like he's almost coming around the corner having expected something crazy's happened. He's like,
True.
I told you these people are fucking nuts. But this is where they all can admit, like, yeah, they do the invitation. And I like the world building here. Miguel being like, oh no, I know a ton of people who do that. Boom.
Totally.
Just one line.
I got a ton of friends in Amway. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. I dig it because it's just something so subtle and so small. And it's not like the invitation was first set up by Dr. So-and-so, and like they give us a video that's a little exposition-y, but it's done visually. It's not done through dialogue. It's done through like something you've seen like 1,000 times. You've probably seen these infomercials or these kind of a fucking video. It's like a video pamphlet basically. That's all it is.
To be financially free.
Right, or like fucking Patrick Swayze and Donnie Darko, and he's like, "I'm not afraid anymore." Like that fucking kid. Oh my god, dude, I hate it.
Dude, one great thing when I was watching one of the interviews with Karyn Kusama about this, a cool thing in the way they did this video is they actually did film and edit the video for the cult leader first, and in this moment, when he opens up the laptop and plays it for everybody, this is the first time the whole cast had actually sat there and seen this video. That none of them had ever seen it before. So these are their genuine reactions watching it on a MacBook Pro. And I love that. For one, I mean, it's just way more authentic because you're going to get the cast actually not knowing what to expect from this thing and trying to just see what it is. But also, I think I think a lesser movie would have, especially a lesser movie that is set in this extremely nice LA mansion, essentially, they would have some big ornate thing of like, oh, and a big screen comes down and they all watch it on this big movie screen. But no, it's so realistic and small. Like a guy just brings out his MacBook and is like, hey, I want to show you guys a video. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I've been to that party. Like, yeah, some dude's just going to show you on a computer. Like, here's my student film I made.
Yeah, like he didn't take him up to the home theater system they have and like plug his laptop off and be like, fuck, dude, the fucking aux cord's not working.
Exactly. Dude, everybody be quiet, be quiet. I can't get the speakers to work, so you got to listen to the built-in speakers. Just chill out. So fucking true, though.
But so, yeah, they kind of flip out over the invitation. David plays this fucked up video, man. And strike two for the leaving time. Strike two. Like now is the leaving time because I can't. Yeah. Like I watched enough snuff shit on Kazaa when I was 10. I don't need to fucking watch this. Like I'm good. I don't need to watch this shit. Oh, God. And it's surprisingly like unsettling, man. Yeah. Like. Yeah, I mean, you think like, oh man, whatever. I've seen some crazy shit, but it's just because there's no grandiosity behind her dying. It's just boom, she's gone. And you're like, what the fuck?
And I like the way in my opinion, I still think it walks the line just carefully enough because I'm like, if they had shown this video and it was the cult leader like, and now we'll release her into the afterlife, and he plunges a fucking needle into her and poisons her, I'm like, okay, we're all out of here. Like, fuck this. But the fact that it is a video of this woman just kind of like laying in bed and she's obviously sick and she just passes away. I'm like, I'm 100% with Will of like, why the hell would you show this at a dinner party? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, it's not like they murdered her or anything. It's just extremely distasteful to show in this context. I'm like, it's really bizarre. But I am with you as far as like, I feel like in real life, 1 or 2 people leave right here. They're like, okay, no, this is too much. You guys are fucking weird. I don't know who you are. We're out of here.
Right. Yeah. And especially all their reactions to that, not just the regular party goers. I'm talking about the invitationers, if you want to call them that, like the reaction of David when he's like, nah, man, that's what it's all about. You're like,
it's all about dying in bed while a bald guy strokes your head. That's what it's about.
Right. Yeah. It's so unsettling just how calm he is or how expectant he is of them to be understanding of what's going on. And it's like, man, no fucking way. Like you have dropped a bomb on you should have turned around a bit like before this video started and be like, hey, by the way,
you're going to see someone die right now.
Right. If any of you guys have any, I need like the Facebook uncover, video option. Like I need that tap right there. Like, but yeah. But I like it. I like the fact that the social contract of being understanding of people's religious beliefs, this is where it starts to feel like it's being forced, where you were like, you didn't tell me I was going to watch a video of somebody fucking die. I don't care about watching your Sunday morning bullshit that comes on Access TV. Like, I don't give a fuck about that.
I'll watch your kid's gross brists. Okay. I have to see their little kid dick. It's weird, but I understand. Right. But someone dying? What? Right.
Yeah. And I love everybody's reaction to it. But I dig the fact that Miguel, he's like, listen, that's what she wanted. I'm not judging her. And it is kind of like, well, yeah, that's what she wanted. Like you said, this was a consensual thing. This was not like, oh, go to sleep. Somebody putting a pillow over your face, Like there's actually some kind of, there's the consent there. And I think that's the number one thing. It's not like she's shackled to a bed and you're like, wait, she's handcuffed. What the fuck is going on?
Are you executing prisoners? Is this an ISIS video?
Right. But yeah, I mean, when you kind of start taking everything into it, it's like, okay, we haven't seen these people in 2 years. She's acting fucking weird. I don't know who her new husband is. Who the fuck are these 2 people? And then you show me this goddamn video. It's like, yeah, it's like strikes 3, 4, and 5. Or I'm like, I'm leaving. Like I'm fucking out of this shit. But she's like, look at me now. I'm great. I'm happy. I'm not angry anymore. And it's kind of like, it's interesting, and she follows it up with, and if anybody is going to take that away from me, kind of like this challenge of like, this is what I believe in. Like you have this right, you have to respect something about that, and that's what's so interesting. Like I think when you try to set something like this in like the 70s or the 80s, like there's no fucking way. But with the climate that now of like more acceptance of people's beliefs and stuff, you can't. I don't know. Again, social contract,
People are afraid even if you step over the line. Yeah.
Right. Even if you aren't friends, it's like, it's still, you have to kind of, respect that. And I love when, Edie's talking to Will and you can tell she's kind of skirting around this and she's kind of like, hey, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, you guys are all cool for this, but this is meant for you. It's kind of like this is for you shit. And then when she tries in on it, I love, God, who the fuck is this guy's name? Logan Anthony Michael Dice Clay.
That's it. Logan Anthony Michael Dice Clay. Got it.
Logan Marshall Green. Sorry, David Hyde Pierce. No, there is something, Lee Harvey Oswald. No, there is something interesting about when he pops up and his reaction of this. I love that he's basically saying that this is it's so easy for you, isn't it? Or is that what he says? He says something about like it's so easy for you, and immediately people are like, hey man, hey, it's cool, like just calm down. I love the feeling of like the friends there who are like, no, this is not how this is going. Let's go outside. Let's blow off some steam. And it's like, that feels real. You could have like let this moment gone on a little bit longer because quite frankly, it's just been a bunch of people sitting in a room for like the last like 15 minutes, but you could have let that moment gone on longer. But it's like, I like that. That feels real. I feel like, hey man, come on, let's go outside and smoke a cigarette. Like, let's go outside. Let's get some air.
Yeah. And I also, what I think is interesting about this scene too, is that I feel like part of it is everybody caring about Will and like fearing for him, like having an emotional breakdown here in this moment. But also I think it's a little bit of people being like, almost acknowledging that, yeah, the shit Edie is saying is weird and off-putting, but we're just kind of letting her have that so she can get through it. And once Will stands up and is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? They're like, okay, no, let's just let her have it. Let's just let her have it. Like, just, she's weird now. Let's just let her be weird. It's working.
Right. It's like, all right, everybody just bite your tongue.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just weird. This whole scene, like, like, the way things break down and Will ends up walking off, but then we have these people that show up at the door and Pruitt goes to get it. Like this whole thing ends really weird, especially with what really bugged me was Pruitt being like, no, I'll get it. I got it. Yeah. Like he was insistent about it.
Because also in that moment too, they're all thinking, Gina's boyfriend Choi, they've been talking about. They're like, oh, it's probably Choi. He's probably finally here. And she's like, I'll get it. And he's like, no, I'll get it. And I'm like, it might be her boyfriend. Like, why are you needing to get it?
Right, yeah, it's very, very odd. Kira's fucking slamming hot, by the way, too. I'm like way out of your league, dude.
I don't know. Out in LA, it might be like cool LA Jesus hobo look. Like that might be the hot thing.
Yeah, and that's part of that like disheveled thing. Like when we see the flashback, like there's no beard, his hair's like a lot shorter, and you're like, okay, like so he's kind of like let himself go like a little bit, like run out the beard and stuff, but. We see, is it? Sorry, I'm mixing up their fucking names. Gina. Yeah, it's Gina. Gina comes up to him and she's talking, and he's not fucking listening. He's watching David, and because it's so weird if these were like, oh yeah, they just had the looking out for a party, just a couple of people, whatever. It's so weird that you end up going out there and they want to talk to you like that. That's weird about it. It's like, oh no, you got the wrong house. See ya. That conversation went on for way longer than it probably should have if these were just people at the wrong house or something. It's like immediately that's really kind of odd.
Dude, one thing with the end of the movie in mind, with the very, very end, like the final shot, it almost makes me wonder if it's another invitation person checking in, like, how's it going over here?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the feeling that you get. Right. But yeah, so basically, we've kind of got that first kind of like outburst and we're trying to bring everything back down and just kind of like chill out. And it's about that time too. It's about the time that things kind of actually like heated. We've had her kind of pop him in the face. That can just be taken as like, oh well, he's being disrespectful. He's kind of being an ass or whatever. But then once this shit happens, it's like, all right, well, this is getting even worse now. That's awesome. But the more of the paranoia is starting to set in now. He sees David outside talking to these people. Miguel kind of he's off in the side room with him, and he's like, hey, what's this pill? I want you to identify this. And he's like, what the fuck? You're just like going through this person's house and like looking at their shit. But it's a barbiturate, he's like, it's just a like a random barbiturate, man. It's nothing crazy. Like it's kind of more crazy that you're going through this person's house and like going through their shit, like that's that. I mean, it's kind of hard to come with like, oh, look at all this evidence I got. How did you get that evidence? I might have just gone in and taken it. I don't know. It's
stupid.
Right. It's immediately kind of weird. Like when Tommy comes in, you can see Will just kind of very quickly put the pill in his pocket. Like, I don't want anybody to know I took this shit. But I love Miguel because when they they all kind of meet back up and David has opened up this fucking bottle. What is it that Miguel says? It's so fucking funny. He's like,
you're all on pills, figuratively.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so fucking good.
And that's again come back to that whole like the realistic aspect of their everybody's friendship, and evidently the whole cast. Even Karyn Kusama was talking about it. She's like, weirdly enough, like we cast this movie, but then everybody, once they all got together, had worked together previously. I like, somebody had been on this movie together. Somebody else had worked on this other movie together, and everybody at least kind of knew each other. And so it actually made it easier for this natural chemistry to kind of come out of. They were all already at least pretty familiar with each other.
Right. Yeah. And it's probably good, especially for, those random people. It's like, oh, well, maybe I've never worked with John Carroll Lynch, but that works because I'm not supposed to know him. It's interesting. It's
exactly
kind of like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, like kind of thing. But I like this conversation between Tommy and him, and he's like, listen, this thing was not going to be chill in the first place. Like you're going through some shit, man. Like it's an LA cult. They're these free spirited people now. Like whatever, that's just how it works. And David immediately he's addressing it. David comes back. He's like, I'm sorry, that might have been a little bit too much. I'm sorry. That wasn't really cool. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I'm not trying to force my ideas on you. Like he's becoming, it's like, okay, well, I got to be diplomatic about this. I can tell I lost some people there. So like, let's keep everybody here and let's keep them cool. And I'm going to like, oh no, it's okay. It's all good. Sorry about that. But this is where he kind of gets the I never gave, the I guess never have I ever like type shit.
Right. The I want game. Speak honestly about your desires and what do you want? Just say it. That becomes this whole game.
It's fucking weird, man. The turn that this
so
takes is just like fucking Gina starts making out with Sadie and doing a bunch of coke, and you're like, all right. And I love Claire. Claire's just like, see ya. I'm like, I am riding home with Claire. I'm getting the fuck out of here at this point.
Dude, this moment with Sadie, this of all the character their beats in the movie, like I would say when it comes to Sadie, this is the moment that explains her almost completely, because she stands up. She's like, I want to tell everyone here. And she like goes through all their names, Miguel, Gina, blah, blah. And she's like, that I love you. I love you all. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know these people. You don't know the fact that you would just up and say that you love everyone and take it all serious like this. I'm like, you just want everyone's affection. That's what this is. Like, you don't really know what like love is. And I feel like that comes even clearer into definition later on when she approaches Will by herself. You're like, oh yeah, you're just kind of a freak that wants everybody's sexual affection. It's so bizarre because she tells everybody, I love you. And then, like you said, starts making out with Gina.
Right. Yeah. It's so odd because it's one thing. It's, you know, there's plenty of like religions where it's like, hey, I don't know you, but you're a human being. I care about you. I don't want to see you die or starve or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this is like a whole other, like, she seems like she'd be like, listen, you kill somebody, like, I'll help you bury the body. I won't tell anybody about it. And you're like, this is fun.
You love me.
Right. Yeah. Will you look me in the eye now? Yeah. It's just this whole thing just goes up to another whole fucking level. You know, she ends up getting the blow from I love David. He's like, oh yeah, I used to be a coke dealer and it was way out of control, but I got some in a drawer over here if you want to bust them out.
That was so good. Yeah, he's like, it freed me from living like the stereotype of I was a record producing cokehead. How ridiculous is that? And then Gina's like, I want some blow, and he's like, I have some. Like, what? Wow. Okay, so you're still in it,
right?
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's so, and this guy doesn't seem like the coke type, you know, like he kind of like this, like I can imagine I take that back. I could totally see him like doing some coke and be like, oh yeah. This is like my old mixtape, you know, if you guys like that, I mean, I can put it's I mean, it's on Spotify, you know, it's on,
I'll put it on right now.
Yeah, it's on SoundCloud. I don't give a shit.
Oh, the aux cord doesn't work. It's just the same fucking party bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh man, only one of the speakers works, kind of fucked up.
Here, I'm just gonna hold my phone up to your ear. Hold on.
Oh God, those are the worst. I'm like, no, just email it to me. Just stop. I can't do this. But yeah, this is where fucking Pruitt comes in with the people's elbow of Debbie Downer, and it's like, oh my God, dude, like. Again,
oh my God,
you kind of pulled everybody back in, being like, hey, sorry, you know, let's play a game. Let's not talk about this. Let's kind of talk about it, but not really talk about it. And then Pruitt's like, I want to tell you guys about my wife. It's like, oh, okay, this is kind of spooky.
Dude, two things about that. For one, I think this is an excellent scene, and this is the scene for John Carroll Lynch. I think it's fantastic writing, fantastic performance, and I'm a huge fan of characters, especially really like enigmatic, strange characters in movies, telling a story, because I feel like they're not the kind of person who's going to tell you exactly about themselves, but they will tell you a very honest, almost too honest story, and like. He just gives this long monologue about his wife and how he met her and how in love with her he was and how he accidentally brutally killed her and went to prison for it. And I think it's just an excellent scene of explaining this character and the way he's come to grips with it. But also, number two, I'm out of this party now. Like, oh, holy shit. Are you serious? Like this dude murdered his wife and he's telling us about it and expecting us to all like, I don't know, give him a golf clap. Like, no, I'm out. We're out. I'm out of here.
Right.
I'm with Claire.
It's like, dude, don't get me wrong, man. I mean, cool. You've come to terms with that and that's fucked up. And you admit that you were drinking and all of this other stuff. But still, I don't fucking know you. I don't know you. I don't know you from Tom, Dick, or Harry. Like, I don't fucking know you. But it's also eerily reminiscent of like Quint and Jaws when he's sitting in the back and the nails go down the chalkboard and he's in the back corner of the room and it's just like zooming in the whole time. There's a great Whitest Kid You Know sketch about that too. It's fucking hilarious. It's a parody of it. It's really, really good.
I love that show.
But yeah, this is when he finishes up and Claire's like, I think I'm going to leave. And, it's so quiet and like subtle. And she's like, I'm getting out of here. But what gets me is like, she's leaving And I love David. He's like, no, I'm sorry. He's like, well, hey, why don't you just let her go? And it's like, oh, another jab. He just drops these jabs through the night that are just like these real subtle. I don't know. Again, he's not being rude. He's just being very aggressive and like very blunt about it. And the way that Will is like coming at it is just like, holy shit, man. You know, I don't know. There's ways to do that and not be this weird ass, like, I don't know, so confrontational about it.
Right. I gotta say though, I do love that he stops David, because David starts doing that cult leader thing of like, no, just stay, have a good time. Oh, hold on here, just sit down. And she's already completely expressed like, I'm uncomfortable here. I want to go ahead and go. Like I'm out. And they're all just doing that like subtle, like soft culty talking her down. And he's like, just let her go. Like let her. She's made her choice. Please just let her go.
Right. Yeah. And what's so interesting too is seeing this once they're leaving. And I mean, Will has to like go to the window and just watch them and see exactly what happens. And also Edie kind of makes out with Ben, which is fucking weird, but whatever, that was kind of random.
Also weird. Yeah.
But like, I mean, literally having to like offers to walk her down to her car, has to physically sit there and just watch them the whole time. And you're like, man, like this, like it does kind of feel like, you're feeling like, man, this guy's paranoid. It's like, yeah, but this guy just admitted he like murdered his wife. Like, I think I'd probably hang out and watch and make sure you're cool, like on the way home.
Yeah, same.
And apparently, Karyn. Wow, God, what the fuck is her name? Karyn
Kusama.
Karyn Kusama. Yeah, she even said, like, so many people have asked her, like, hey, you know, what happens to Claire? And they're like, we'll never tell anybody what happens to Claire. Like, she might be dead. She might be alive. I personally think she's alive. I just don't.
I think she makes it out of there. And I to be honest, I actually love how that goes against the grain of your typical horror movie. Like, there's somebody who finally a character stands up and goes, this is too much for me, I'm leaving. And they do, and they make it out of there. And I'm like, you've got to imagine it makes everybody else at the end of this fucking covered in the blood of their friends and being like, I wish I just left like Claire did. Shit.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Right. Yeah. And I would hate to be Will, because I would have the most I told you so vindication. Like, I fucking told you. I fucking told, like, as your friends are getting stabbed, I fucking told you. Like, what was happening?
Told you it's a cult.
But yeah, this is where, I mean, kind of David comes in and he's like, hey man, can I talk to you? Like, you're being kind of a dick. Like you're kind of like fucking watching everything I do. You've been hostile since we've got here. You know, we're trying to be guests to you. You know, I don't know, man, you've been acting so just aggressive, you know, basically. And I mean, but he's not wrong, but at the same time, he's not right. I don't know.
Dude, that's the genius interplay of this movie, of like, we come back to this moment of, well, we were starting to get into Will's corner and be like, yeah, maybe things really are strange here, and we need to keep an eye on this guy who admitted he killed someone and all these things. But then it comes back down to like, well, if nothing is going on, then you are being extremely rude.
Right.
Like, you're being extremely suspicious. You are the one guy at the party who is utterly not relaxed.
Well, and I love what he says. He goes, maybe I just wasn't prepared to be here tonight. And it's like, yeah, that's for goddamn sure. Like that, right. that if there's not a truer statement said in this movie, like, holy shit. And I like that he's trying to get closer to Will, and Will's like, dude, you don't know me. You can't. You just can't. And I'm like, God, that's fucking great, man. But I also love the fact that due to him being drunk and punching his wife, you never see Pruitt touch alcohol. He's like, hey, do you have any diet stuff? He's always asking for diet soda. He's never drinking alcohol. I'm like, that's just such a nice touch. I dig that. It's just so subtly like scary. It's so weird. But I love this kind of tracking shot of them at the dinner table. God, this dinner looks delicious.
I know. Every time I watch this movie, I forget about this moment, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm watching it on an empty stomach again. I'm starving now.
Right? Yeah, I'm over here eating a bag of popcorn. I'm like, this is not hitting the spot. But they're going over, you know, Claire sends fucking cat videos and penguin videos or fucking whatever. And the whole time everybody's eating, you know, they're just, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. And Will's just shoveling food in his mouth like a death row prisoner on suicide watch, just like head down, just like shoveling food into his mouth. But I dig this. I dig that, you know, this is now we're getting everybody like mellowed out because everybody's eating fine wines and spirits. It's not a bunch of people sitting in a room kind of awkwardly being like, oh, hey, what's going on? Blah, blah,
right. Like, God, just put a table and some drinks and some food between us at least.
Right. Yeah. And this is also where we see kind of this whole dinner scene I really like, because the chewing of everybody being really loud and the laughing and like the extreme close-ups of just like way too fucking close, like watching people mouth chew and shit, and like just to where you can see like the like the lines in their eyeballs, like the fucking red lines. You're like, all right, this is yeah. Well, and because this is where Will is kind of like reliving this moment where Ty died, and we don't really, it's not important how he died. That's one thing. I read a bunch of people online be like, exactly how did he die? What happened? And it's like, that is totally irrelevant, by the way. It's not really,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't help the story.
My theory on it, which I don't think is anything groundbreaking, but I think which I actually like this about it in a dark way. It sounded like they were playing baseball or playing around with a bat and ball, and his friend, because he was talking about the friend, it was a kid who actually killed him on accident. And it was like he maybe swung the bat and just didn't realize how close Will's son was, Ty, and hit him just right in the head. And he went down and died. And that was it. And it sounds weird to say, but I kind of love that as far as this movie goes, because it's just totally, it is not like, oh, I accidentally got drunk one night and hit my kid with a car and it's like my fault or somebody did something on purpose. Like it was just a random, bizarre, tragic, awful accident. Like just like a kid did it on accident. Like who can you blame? Like there's no one to blame. There's no way to make sense of it. It's just an awful, sad thing. And like I think in a weird way, even though the means of his death doesn't really matter, the randomness of it, I think, is a big part of the specific kind of grief that Will and Eden feel about it, of how there's no one to blame. There's no way to make sense of it. It's just a total random, meaningless accident, and that's it. You just have to kind of like live with that. Right. Like, that's awful. That's real heavy, and there's no way to really process it. You just kind of have to let it be. And I think that's crucial to and we see how differently they react to it.
Right. And how totally unjust and unfair, and just like one moment you're here, next you're gone. It's like, right. And in a weird way, I maybe it's just because I'm a big Stephen King fan, I get like a Pet Sematary vibe, like kind of thing from it. Like just this total, a 5-year-old kid and just a total accident. It's like, oh, fuck. Just like you said, the randomness of it, and like the events that transpired that are just like, what could you have done differently to stop that? Like what could I have done? Oh, it's just an accident, blah, blah. Like you said, there's no scapegoat. There's nothing there. It's like, oh, God, that fucking sucks. But yeah, I love this scene with Sadie where she's in the room just like making crazy fucking face. And you're like,
yes.
Oh, what the fuck is going on, man?
And dude, that is such I wish more horror movies did this. Like the way this movie leans into its like specific moments and kind of terror, like it is so much creepier to see Sadie doing this versus like her, loading a gun or sharpening a knife or like something so overtly, like scary. Like it's just her kind of playing around, but you get the sense that like, oh, she's so unstable. Like it's almost like she's playing with emotions and she doesn't know what emotions are. She like treats them like toys, like treats them like it's just an expression on your face. And I'm going to try this one out. I'm going to try this one out. And like, God, you're just such a person who with no center at all. You're just spinning around.
Right. Yeah. It's so odd. Like, well, especially the scene that follows. It's just the cherry on top of the fucking crazy Sunday. It's like,
oh my God,
her walking out there and like trying to turn him like on Kira and be like, oh yeah, she just seemed really distant. Like trying to, I don't know. It's like take one away from the herd and like single them out. Like you're like take away like the strength in numbers kind of thing. And I think it's one thing, like if there's anybody at this group that I think would fall for this shit, who would be in the place to accept it would be Will on paper. He's grieving, he's lost, doesn't know what to do, but he's the one that they kind of want. But there's so much like you said, the rewiring has happened, and like you kind of have to relearn who each other is. And it's like, dude, whoever you thought this guy might have been is not the same person that probably would have fallen for this. Or, it's like who he was when he was married is so different that it's like this guy is probably a lot more jaded and like bitter about stuff. And he's like, I'm not fucking believing in that shit, because it's got that bitterness about him.
And I think, more on Sadie too. Like we get this, there are moments early on with her when she first meets Will, and like she's, for one, we already talked about, like she's staring at him half naked, Winnie the Poohing it down the hall, and just like eyeing him. And then she comes out dressed and then says hello. But one of the first things she says to him is, "Oh, the Eden's told me so much about you." Like she's very focused on Will, and I find that really creepy because it's like it's almost as if she's heard so much about Will and knows how deeply traumatized and saddened he must be, and that like turns her on. She's like interested in him because of that. She's like, I want to fuck this hurting person like that, because that's all she knows about him. Like all they've really been able to tell about him is that Eden used to be married to him and they lost a child together and it destroyed their marriage. And she's like, that's hot. Yeah. Like, you're fucked up. Like, what is wrong with you? Well, yeah. And she comes out with it here, and like kind of like what I was saying earlier when she has that moment where she's like, I love everyone, and I'm like, that really speaks to the kind of strangely broken person she is, because she doesn't know what love is. And when she approaches Will, she's like, you can fuck me right here. And he's like, what? And she's like, why should we deny ourselves ever? You can also hurt me if you want to. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is how you think you propose an offer to somebody, with a sex offer? Like God. What a bizarre, forward, creepy way to do it.
Right. Yeah. There's something that like where you see how everybody else in the group is so just like, let's be mature and adults and, be cool. And here's this person on the total other end of the spectrum. Like Pruitt's polite and he's quiet and he's not like that at all, versus Sadie, who's just like, I want you to shove a pine cone in my ass, just crazy, like just the weird assness of it is like the best word I can think of. Just the oddity of it is so she's so unsettling. You
can totally crack my head with one of the fire logs and drown me in the pool.
she's just kind of got that, like, she takes a lot of like MDMA and she's been up for a couple of days and like she's probably had dreadlocks before, like
100%. Tells you all, at 3 a.m. while she's still coming down off of LSD, she's telling you all about how Burning Man changed her life.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of DMT? Fucking Joe Rogan and shit. But yeah, I love this whole thing of her. Yeah, like you said, why should we ever deny ourselves? I love that whole scene. And I love that she's asking about Kira. She's like, you don't like me, do you? And he's like, I don't know you. Like, that's the best. It just summarizes it perfectly. Tommy and Will chat for a minute. I love Tommy. He's like, listen, man, you got to stop being so fucking weird. He's like, whereas like somebody has to speak up and say something about what's going on with David and Eden. Somebody has to speak up and be like, Will, come on, man. Like, I understand shit's weird and nobody said this was going to be easy for you, but like, you're going out on like some conspiracy shit. And, it's always that everybody's fucking crazy until they're right. It's like, oh yeah, now you're ahead of your time. But yeah, and it's as random as it is. It's like, I enjoy this little scene for Miguel where they bring in his birthday cake, mainly because he's going to get shot in the back in about 15 minutes. But like,
I know. I'm like, so brutal.
He's so likable. He's so polite. He just seems like such a nice guy. And then you're like, man, it's one of the ones that you really feel bad about, like getting killed. You're like, it's a fucking like nice. The world has lost this nice, handsome doctor or whatever. I don't know what the fuck he is, but that's what's so well done is he like immediately starts giving medical, like first aid later on. You're like, oh, this guy must be a doctor or like a nurse or something.
He's also the one who, Will came to with the pill because he figured he could identify it.
Exactly. And you're like, man, that's just two things really quick. And it's like, I love that. Like, it's so shitty. It would have been, oh yeah, how's it, working those swing shifts down at the hospital, Miguel? Oh, they're really tiring because I'm a doctor. It's like, it's just such a subtle way. It's cool.
That's a good point. But dude, we can't go past it. There's that great reveal when, he's standing outside after he's kind of like shooed Sadie off before he goes back in, and he goes and checks his phone. And for once he gets a moment of reception and a voicemail comes through. And it's from Choi.
Right.
And it's the first time that anybody here has heard from Choi. And Choi's voicemail is essentially like, oh, hey, I'm here, but I forgot the dessert. Can you go ahead and pick up a cake on the way? Well, you and Kira are headed here. Since I forgot it, I'm going to go ahead and go inside now. Hopefully I see you soon. And that was hours ago. So supposedly Choi has been here and even said he was going inside. and he's nowhere to be seen. And that is the way Will enters the next scene. And I love that moment when they, after the cake and everything, they have that little mini celebration, the early birthday celebration for Miguel. And after everybody's like, oh, hooray, yay, he's just like, where the fuck's Choi? Like, what the fuck's going on, you liars?
Right. And the angle they have him on, too. There's something about that shot that, like, there's nobody around him. There's nobody, like, they don't include anybody else in the frame. And I feel like it's this. He's like, where's Choi? Like, where the fuck is Choi? Like, what's going on? Because he is a man on an island. It's like everybody else, like, anytime somebody's like, Will, that's fucked up. There's like 4 or 5 people in the shot. And there's always somebody, it just distances him. It's a great way, like, and especially he's on the end of the table. Nobody's like around him. It's fucking awesome. And I love it. He says, he left me a voicemail and said, said he was here. It's, oh, okay, that's just really weird, why is everybody acting so fucking polite? And you're like, oh shit. Like, dude, the way he takes this up is just like, that's where I can't to make that trip with you. Like the way that you're going about this is you're unbelievably aggressive. Like, and I
extremely. And
I understand, like, you should be kind of being like, hey, what the fuck is this? But the way he gets up, oh my God. I mean, and he just unloads 2 years. We haven't seen an interview for 2 years. Then all of a sudden we get invited to this lavish dinner. You're all spewing out this jargon on these two, with these two in tow. Don't tell me that this is normal. The invitation. He's like, fuck this shit, man. And I love Miguel. He's like, listen, everybody's allowed. No, Miguel, fuck that. It's a fucking cult. Holy shit.
Through the roof. And not only does he like finally throw out like the cult accusations, like it's a brainwash, but then he like turns to Edie and it has this like extremely painful, intimate moment with her. He's like, our son died, Edie. Ty died, and it meant something when he died. You can't just erase it. And like everybody's just dead silent. Like, oh God, this is just so awful. And it's such a powerful moment of like you've already said, he's so aggressive here, and it completely shatters this whole like social fabric of where even if we're all kind of uncomfortable, we're all just kind of glossing over it and we're just rolling with it and we're just going to keep going, finish out this night. And we're all going to go home and everything's going to be fine. But he breaks that spell, like does not let it keep going.
Right. Yeah. And just oh my God, like it's bad enough as it is, but he's like, where's Choi? They're like, listen, we don't know. And I love David. He's like, listen, this is just all a big mistake. Don't fucking patronize me. He's like, why are there bars in the windows? Why are the doors locked? Why do you have this, fetcher diddle rental in your bedroom? And it's like, dude, you sound like a fucking nut. Like, and the way that they close up on Will and he's like looking around the room like, yeah, did you guys know that? Huh? It's like, you are desperate, man. You are fucking desperate. And I love that. They're like, listen, we should go. He goes, no, there is something dangerous going on here. And we're all just ignoring it because David bought some good wine. Like that fucking line. I laughed my ass off because I was like, I got to laugh, dude. This tension, it is so fucking bad. But this is just like the nuclear bomb getting dropped. As soon as you have this huge explosion coming out of Will, and then the doorbell rings and there's Choi. And you're like,
it's so good.
What the fuck, man? Go ahead.
What a great fucking turn. Like, again, like this movie does such a great job pivoting back and forth between, no, I think David and them really are suspicious. We got to get out of here, to, no, maybe Will's overreacting. And this is that moment again where you're like, okay, Will's pretty much committed now. Like you're calling them a psychotic cult in front of everybody and yelling, and your girlfriend is screaming, let's just go home. And then here's Choi. Choi is there. He's fine. Oh, sorry, I'm late. And this is probably one of my favorite moments from Logan Marshall Green, where you can just see the shame on his face, where he's just so totally embarrassed, so broken, and not just embarrassed like in the social sense, but of like, wow, I really am a fucked up person.
Yes.
Like this is, I'm coming undone in front of everybody. Like that's what you see wash over him of like, I'm the guy, I'm this guy screaming and pointing fingers. I'm the one ruining everything. And he's just totally ashamed.
Right. Yeah. And it's such a great way that it's shot with him. I mean, he's totally, again, on the opposite side of the room. Of course, he's not going to be in the middle of everybody like, hey, what's going on? But just him in the corner, and like in this darkened corner, and all of them just surrounded by light at this table of just like, you are a man on an island. Removed. Yeah. cannot relate to this shit with you, man. But yeah, like you said, just the shame, the like, fuck what these people think. Like at first, that's kind of what sets it off. But then like, 10% of it is this social embarrassment. 90% is like, I am way more fucked up than I thought I was. And he, like you say, he plays it so fucking well, man. He's great. He's not absolutely just like in hysterics, but like just barely able to like talk and hold it together. You're like, holy shit. And he's like, will you excuse me for a second? And it's like, I don't think you really needed to say that. I think you just need to, like, the social shit is still there. You can tell. And it's like, just walk the fuck off, man. Like, fuck these people. But Choi shows up, he meets Pruitt. Pruitt gets him the food, again, showing just this niceness of Pruitt, where it's like, the fuck is going on? Like, for this guy the Zodiac must have been just a very polite guy, is all I'm saying. But we get, Will kind of like, kind of composing himself. We get more shots of Thai. And this is where I keep wanting to say more shots of like Muay Thai. I don't know why I'm like the Muay Thai, more Thai. But yeah, Kira goes outside. She's talking to him. She's like, listen, we should go. He's like, I can't, Kira, I'm not okay. She's like, listen, I love you, but you're not going to be able to help me. And she's like, all right, see you. And just leave. She's like, I'm not here to save you, dude. Like, I can't, like.
Can we talk about how shitty a night this must be for Kira?
Yeah. Oh my God.
You don't know anyone here except for the one guy who's steadily and quickly becoming a fucking pariah. You're like, I'm his girlfriend. How's it going, everyone I've just met?
Right.
Fuck.
No,
this night sucks.
Like, dude, you've got the Uber app. See you at home. Bye. And just fucking leave, man. There's no way. But I love what she says here. She's like, moving on is not a betrayal. There's not. It's, I think that is so common with like grief and things of that nature, of like people being like, it's kind of almost like the lighting a candle on the birthday of somebody who's passed away, which is interesting. And I've always liked that, because it's like there is a guilt of like, how could you forget that this person died? Like, how could you forget that this thing happened? And there is an interesting kind of conversation there with like, there's it's almost like a survivor's guilt. It's like, my life is moving on while this person who totally didn't deserve to die died. And I think that's what's so interesting about it, is not only is it his son, but he's like, it's totally unfair and totally random, like this accident that we were talking about. And he's like, and it has only been 2 years, and you're immediately back into this house. You're kind of like, he is a man disassociated. He's just like barely there. The lights are on in somebody's home, but they're in the shower. Like, he's just not fucking there. And that's what I think so interesting about this scene is, he's like, listen, you can't help me. And I like the fact that she's not like, no, listen, we can get through this. He's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, you are. And she just gets up and walks off. And you're like, fuck yeah, this is getting bad. But you can kind of understand from her point of view. She's like, I don't know any of these fucking people. I watched a woman die on a laptop. I am about to have to pull my boyfriend off this guy who looks like shitty Hugh Jackman. And I don't know what's happening here. Go ahead.
I think especially for Will's character, the real piece of dialogue here that kind of summarizes who he is, or where he is at least, is where he says to Kira in this moment, where he's like, ever since the second it happened, I've just been waiting to die.
Right.
Like, that's it. And the truth about that too is, I think that's the same for Eden. She's just taken a wholly different path as far as approaching it and doing this whole, I'm just letting go of everything. That's healthy. And he is kind of just holding on to it and gripping it really close. And I think what's interesting about where we go from here, especially by the end of the movie, is that I think we see Will essentially come to terms with his grief and actually finally let go of that. And we'll come to that. And I want to talk about that scene once we get there. But that's kind of, I feel like this is an interesting part of their conversation, because it kind of lays out where Will is and why he is so on edge at this place, that he is still kind of just waiting for his own death.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's, but it kind of harkens back to that line where he was talking to David, even though it seems kind of insincere. He's like, I just don't think I was really prepared to be here. And it's like, man, that's probably the most honest line of this whole fucking movie. And I love it. I love it because he's like, yeah, I was just going behind enemy lines and totally no ammo, no med kits. Like, what the fuck is going on? It's the scene you're talking about. I think we're pretty much here. He comes back and he asks to see Ty's room. Bad fucking move, right. By the way. Not a good move. I don't like, there's something about that I'm like, again, that's just me personally. Like, I don't think I could, I'm good. I don't think I could go in there, man. Like, that would just, that would just be too much for me. But, well, is this the scene that you were talking about that you were,
yeah.
Hit me with it. it?
Oh, I think it's excellent. And I totally see what you mean as far as like, oh my God, like what a painful thing to have to just go and sit in. But I mean, I think the way the movie shows it just visually is really excellent. Like he asks to see Ty's room and he goes in and it's all like just awash in this kind of blue lighting. And he like has this almost like vision of his son, sleeping in his bed, and he just lays down in bed next to him and his son opens his eyes and they smile at each other. And that's it. And then we cut back to the room as it actually is now. I think it's like an office, and he's just sitting in there by himself. But it's sort of like this moment of just the way I interpret it, at least, having seen it a couple times now, like, is that he's kind of just accepting that, yes, my son is dead, but that does not diminish the life that he had. And it's like, I still have those memories. I still have that love for him. It's not like that's been taken away. He still had a life and we had times together and there's this nice love there. Like that's not dead and gone. And he kind of just taking that in and appreciating it for a moment. And I think this is kind of the moment from here forward, especially right before things really kick off and break bad, where Will has found the will to live again, essentially. And that's what keeps him in survival mode. Like, because before this, like we've already said, he already told Kira that I've just been waiting to die ever since then. Like, I don't really have much of a will to live. But I think he finds that here. And I honestly think him going back and having this moment, imagining his son is part of what allows him to go into survival mode.
Right. Yeah. What I think is so interesting about their grief, the grief between Edie and the grief between Will, is like where Edie has just been like, no, it's fine. You can just shed this and everything will be great. And, you just have to let go of the pain. And he's like, listen, like, I want to do that, but you have done this way too fast. Like, there is something like, it's not, maybe it's not anybody's place to tell anybody how to grieve, but it's like, listen, like, for somebody who's tried to slit their wrist after this and you've just gone into this we haven't seen you in 2 years and you're back talking about peace and love and you have all these people with you, like, this is just too much. In 2 years, I mean, I know personally for myself, like, I think I would need a little bit more time than that to get to a point where I'm like, no, man, you just got to let that go. It's like, 2 years, like
a little early.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the difference between their grief is like, ultimately their goal is the same. It's like, I don't want to carry this around with me forever, but whereas his is the long road of like coming to terms with it, hers is almost like a shortcut of like, no, here's this.
I agree.
Here's this program that helps you with it. And it's like taking diet pills versus like working out, and it's like you have to kind of really get in there if you want to see that change and like change yourself for the better. But This is where he sees fucking Toby Huss, phone from King of the Hill, by the way, is this guy.
Oh, it's so crazy. I didn't know that until tonight that he was the voice of Cotton Hill, phone. So many good characters.
I fucking King of the Hill. I love when Hank is like a little kid and Cotton takes him out. He's like, I want you to shoot this rifle. And he's like, I want my binky back. You want your binky back. It is so fucking funny, dude. Toby Huss is amazing.
He's so good.
I just knew him as like the Wiz, the mattress guy from Seinfeld. That's all he was for years. And I was like, oh, so that guy had a career? He wasn't just like a bit part? Like, all right, that's weird.
Fuck, I forgot he was on Seinfeld. Shit.
Oh, it's because I'm the Wiz. So fucking great. But I mean, basically this video, what is he saying? Our faith is going to be revealed. Tonight's the night. Some ominous shit. I mean, it's pretty fucking ominous. It's like, well, and I think that this is what perfect to what you said. Will has found the will to live, and he's found a way that like, I have to grieve with this. And I understand that, like, but I'm not, I need to take baby steps and I haven't even done that. And it's like, I need to make some kind of small, like, push forward to deal with this. And at the same time, though, when he kind of reevaluates and he's like, okay, but these people are still fucking weird. Something is going on. And just because, I mean, whoa, God, what did the director say? She said something. She's like, sometimes you think people are after you and guess what? They are. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like the thought of that was scary as hell to me of like, just because, it's like, just because they're not, just because you don't see them doesn't mean it's not after you kind of thing. Right. It's like, oh,
well, I mean, it's equally as much, it's as much a mistake to think that, because you're afraid of somebody being after you, that means someone is after you. But paranoia is not inherently a delusion. Like,
right.
Yeah, somebody might actually be after you. It is okay. If you are being chased by wolves in the woods, it's okay to be paranoid about wolves eating you.
Right, right.
Okay. That's a reasonable, rational fear to have.
Right. And I like this scene because it's when I think if he doesn't see this video, he goes out here, he drinks the wine, and he's dead. And then with him watching this video, he's like, okay, they have some big event going on. You know, they're acting like this isn't about their religion, that we're just old friends, but then coincidentally they have this same big event going on. They're basically their Christmas going on tonight. So like, what the fuck is like, what is going on here? And I think that's where he's like, no, listen, they're planning something. I have seen it now. I've seen evidence of something is going to happen when I go back into that room. And that's enough.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and especially it's the fact that they can't leave him in there. Pruitt goes in there. He's like, hey, we're waiting on you. He's like, why? Why the fuck are you waiting
banging on the door too? I'm like, what the fuck is up with you, man?
Right.
Leave me be.
Exactly. It's like, fucking chill, dude.
Dude, I love this moment too when it's David and Eden, like when they're at the head of the table and they're kissing as everybody's pouring out their wine in their glasses. The way they embrace and the way they kiss is so nervous. It has this energy to it of like, oh, okay, here we go. Like the way they're holding each other, and he like kind of pulls her in and like kisses her, and she's like taking these deep breaths. And you're like, you two are way too nervous about this. Like you're taking this way too seriously, not just being like, oh, here's some wine for our friends. They're acting like this is something big, like really big. And I love the music here just playing over everything, the silence of the actual scene. And it's just the music as we cut back and forth between them and Will's eyes just on them, watching everything they do.
Right. You kind of get this firsthand hyper look at everything that's going on, and you're seeing everything that Will's seeing. And he's like, nah, something is fucking going on, man. And it's amazing because I mean, at this point, watching it for the first time, I'm like, he must just be kind of crazy. Like he must just be I mean, that's a very loose term, but like he's losing it, you know, and like there's nothing really going on here. And then he smacks all these drinks down out of their hand. No, don't fucking drink it. Yeah. And everybody flips out. And then by the time, you know, he fucking he pulls what Pruitt does and just slams this woman into her, slams her head into something.
Because she's like, hey, you ruined everything.
Right.
And fucking throws herself at him.
The first thing I thought was she was going to run at him and he would move and she would go over the balcony and like break her neck. I'm like, oh my God, something really awful is going to happen. But it's this, and that's another thing too, is like, don't get me wrong. I mean, what he did is fucked up, but it is not warranting that reaction. Like, okay, what the fuck is going on with this chick? Like, why is she acting this way? She's acting like he's just, you know, like pissed on the Constitution. Like, what's going on? And that's where, you know, he shoves Sadie off. Sadie whacks her head. And then the moment you see Gina and the phone coming out of her mouth, and you're like, oh my God, like he's right. He's fucking like, it is a jaw-dropping moment of like, truly, oh my God, like he's fucking right, man. Like, what the hell is going on? And I love how fast they ditch Sadie. They're like, fuck this bitch, Gina. Like, Gina. Like,
exactly. They're like, yeah, she's some crazy girl who just Pruitt knows. We're going to go back to our real friend.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, just everybody standing around, and the moment of everybody looking at Will, like, what the fuck have you done, is so like, it revs up to that final climax of like, these people are about to these people are about to kill you. You know, you're hurting people now. And then you look over and be like, and there's just the immediate like validation and all of this, like on the table. I mean, it sucks because it's Gina and she's really a cool character. I like her. She's fun. But just, I mean, knowing that like, you're right. Like, and don't get me wrong, you're right. And like, that's awesome. But at the same time, the consequences of that are even worse. Like, just be wrong. I want you to be wrong.
Please. But dude, I cannot love the atonal, like, echoey music here more. Like when finally it kicks off and Miguel is on top of me, you know, Gina trying to revive her, and boom, gunshot. David is just standing above him, wastes Miguel in front of everybody, and we have that boom, boom. That just like weird, creepy music as everybody. What I think is so cool about this too, the whole scene is not in slow motion, but pieces of it are. Like it'll cut over to Kira on the floor as she's trying to move away and it's slow motion. And we cut back up to Pruitt and it's normal motion. Like it's this jarring effect of some people. It's almost as if it represents their reactions at different speeds as people are so in shock to what just happened. And we just see the eerie calmness of this scene is the creepiest part about it, because Miguel has just been shot. Gina's already on the floor dying. And Pruitt just is walking calmly over to David being like, You can't hear what he's saying, but you got to imagine something like, okay, hey, everything's all right. Just go ahead and give me the gun. Convinces him to just hand him the gun. And he just starts ruthlessly shooting Choi. And it just that we're in it now. We are in full blown murder spree. Will was right.
Right. I couldn't as soon as people are getting shot. I knew it. Just terrible. No, what's so interesting and what I love is David's expression of just this. What have I just done? Like this. Oh my God!
You're
like,
in it now,
right? Like that. Not like it's not a look of like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. What have I done? It's a look of like, so that's what this is like. Like this is what I'm going to have to do. And yeah, I love that, him talking him through giving him the gun. He starts shooting Choi. Tommy jumps for him and Sadie fucking just slashes him across the chest. And you're like, oh God, that's gotta fucking
gnarly.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Like that. It makes me think of First Blood when they have him tied up in the thing and just cut across it. That's like that. Oh God, that's gotta fucking, it's gonna burn.
Gonna sting.
Yeah. And so yeah, Ben and Kara, Ben, Kara, and Will, that's where they run downstairs and they kind of get separated. They get locked in the room. Sadie's banging on the door, and then they see Ben get fucking murdered, which I was like, I like Ben.
I know. And that was, it's such a brutal murder too.
Yeah, going out
David
the window.
Stabbing him.
Yeah, out the window, getting shot and then stabbed. And you're like, fuck, dude. Like, guys can't have one without the other. So yeah, they end up they see Ben get killed. They kind of they sneak back into the house. And this is where we see Eden. I mean, she's having this regret. This is not the way this was supposed to happen. It's like, don't get me wrong, too little, too late. I mean, you're still balls deep.
Absolutely,
you're still balls deep in this like murder prostitute. But like you like the thing is, it means something. It means something that she is regretful of the way this has gone down. Like the intent of like, I just wanted them to go to sleep and be happy. I did not want to watch my friends get stabbed and murdered while all this goes on. And I think that's what's so interesting. Like what you said, that cult leader charm that David has when earlier, Will is just like, hey dude, just let her leave, and I think this is what has worked on Edie so well. I think this, and he's like, listen, we just got to get just a couple more and we're done and we go to heaven. it's like
everything's going to be so chill. We just have to commit a couple of more fucking heinous, brutal, screaming murders and everything's going to be fucking so great after that.
Right. Yeah. And I love this scene between them and how she can barely stand and walk like after it happens. And you can tell this utter regret that she's having of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what's happening. So yeah, they end up, they're trying to make their way upstairs to that door that apparently doesn't exist. How the fuck does Sadie die? I don't understand this. Does she just bleed out from like wounds or?
Honestly, dude, I've watched this, like I was saying, like this is probably my 7th or 8th viewing, and I'm still unclear on that too. I'm like, wait. There's a part of me that thinks maybe her head wound is just catching up with her. Like she maybe did have a concussion, but she was just in such a rage that she had some adrenaline in her. And now she's like, oh, I'm actually like losing a lot of blood and it's a head injury and I'm fading. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, did Tommy get a stab in on her?
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Cause I'm like, all right, well, she's downstairs now. And, as she stopped banging on the door, we see Tommy, he's okay later on. Like maybe he just got one in on her. I don't know. But yeah, that's where they get she dies. They take the fucking fire poker from her. Every time I say something like that, I think of like, so he died of dysentery. He gave me to watch. That's like all I fucking think of is Pulp Fiction. But I like this scene with Sadie dying on the couch and he takes the fire poker from her. I thought that this was going to be a major foreshadowing, or I'm sorry, like a kind of well, not a foreshadowing, but like
you think a callback to like the coyote.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. A callback.
Yeah.
Like I kind of thought about that, and I thought this is the way it was going to go. But
he's just going to cave her face in with the fire poker.
Well, I know he's not, because then they're going to fucking hear that shit. But then at the same time, like I wanted it. I'm hoping in the back of his head, he's like, nah, just let this one sit on the side of the road and fucking suffer. I'm good. Just let this one die.
He's just whapping the pulp of her head, and he's like, it's a mercy kill. It's a mercy kill.
Just like jams it through her eyes. Like, it's a mercy stab. It's a mercy stab.
I'm a good guy.
So yeah, they end up going upstairs. The door they're looking for has been covered up, and then Pruitt finds them in the theater. This whole fight ensues, and Kira ends up fucking killing Pruitt. And I love that. Like, I like this.
Dude.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say again, real shitty night for Kira. So bad. This night started out with her like, comforting her new boyfriend. Everything's going to be great. You're going to get to see your wife. I'll be there for you, babe. I'm going to pick out my perfume. It'll be nice. It's like a nice house. We'll have a nice dinner. We'll find a way to have fun here. Definitely ends by bludgeoning a large Zodiac killer to death with a fire extinguisher. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And just the way he comes up those stairs too. It's like, man, like you just slap a hockey mask on him, and it would,
I know
it would feel so at home. But I love that. I love him. I don't know, just his presence as a whole. It's hard to describe, and I don't know what it is. He is this hulking kind of figure, but at the same time, very soft spoken. And very just like you don't really see him scream. He's not the Hulk. He's more like, he acts like Bruce Banner, but he has the Hulk body. It's kind of interesting to me. And he's like a force to be reckoned with. He's like, he kind of reminds me of like John Goodman or something like that,
Yeah, he actually does have that energy about him a little.
Right.
But even, the shit that he says to Will as he's fighting him, as he's already been like hitting him and attacking him, he's like, Will, just calm down. We'll be there soon. There's a plan for us, Will. It's all okay. Like, he's still half trying to like indoctrinate him into the cult.
Right. Yeah. He's like, just fucking lay down.
Just take it. Just lay down and take your death.
Lay down and take your freedom poker. No. Yeah. But no, she fucking crushes his head in with that bottle of wine, right? Is that what she hits him with? I think a bottle of wine or something.
Oh, maybe it is. I thought it was like a little fire extinguisher. I think you're right. It might be just a big bottle of wine.
But dude, the sound that fucking Pruitt makes when he looks up at her, the final, I'm like, oh, that she is gonna remember that. She's gonna wake up to that for like 6 months straight. Just that horrible sound that he releases. You're like, oh, that's fucking hard. The audio of stuff is what scares me when you hear something like that. Like, I don't need to see, like, if I watch an arm snap, that's pretty disturbing. If I hear an arm snap, that's when I'm like, like
I'm gonna puke.
You're right. Yep. Right. So yeah, they end up this fight ensues. She kills Pruitt. Eden comes up and fucking shoots, said Logan. She shoots Logan, and then she fucking, the worst way possible, shoots herself in the stomach. I'm like,
in the stomach.
Why?
Like, go like 5 inches higher, you'll get your heart. Like,
right.
Just like, I'm just going to put one through my small intestine so I just feel acid bleeding into my internal organs for the next 10 minutes as I die slowly.
So I'm just going to shoot myself in the knee first so I can get kind of like an appetizer and then shoot myself in the stomach.
Hold on, guys. I'm just going to get down on all four and ram my face into the corner of this table until I'm dead. Like, damn, you could have picked so many easier ways.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, shoot yourself in the fucking head. Like, I just don't understand. Like oh my god, like it's just such a brutal method to like do it. I just don't fucking understand it. But they end up grabbing the gun. David starts coming up the stairs, and I love Tommy with like the fucking alley-oop, like grabbing him by the ankles and sending him down the steps. This tussle kind of happens, and David's fucking dead. And I like the look of David staring at him, and you're like, oh my god, that scares the shit out of me. The way he looks at him, of just like, even though I'm dead, I'm totally like, I'm at peace with this death. Like, I am validated in this death. Like, that scares the shit out of me. Like, even in death, like, you still think that this is like a good thing. I don't know, something about his look. It wasn't like a, oh my god, what have I done kind of shit.
That's the whole other angle to this I haven't really talked about as well. It's like, it's just different from something like, The Strangers, where it's like a home invasion. They're going to kill you all. Their whole intention here is for everyone to die, including themselves. Like, they were all just going to drink this wine together and all die. So like, at the end of the night, they still wanted this. They want to die. Like, they're not trying to survive and win. They want to go down too. So it's like this weird, it didn't work out the way we wanted, but well, at least I'm dying. That's what I wanted. I mean, there's that moment when he's talking to Eden earlier, like we were saying, where she's starting to break down, and he's like, no, we're so close. It's almost done. It's the only way to get out of this pain and all this horrible shit, this shit world. This is it. This is the only way. So it kind of lays bare their actual philosophy here of like, the world is just horrible and all pain is terrible and the only way out is to die. Like, there's no actual philosophy of grappling with the things you've dealt with or grief. It's just, it all sucks. Kill yourself. Like they've dressed it all up in all this bullshit, but in truth, they just want to die.
Yeah, The Invitation, sponsored by Death Clock.
Death Clock.
No, but yeah, and it always cracks me up seeing this fight between Tommy and David. Cause I'm like, Tommy is gonna whoop that ass. Tommy is in excellent shape, by the way. Looking at the two of them, I'm like, you've got this guy who should be an ad for like fucking Trader Joe's versus this other dude. I'm like, he's totally gonna whoop this dude's ass. But they end up, they find Edie. She says that, she admits, she's like, listen, I miss him. Like, I'm not over this shit. And I think that that's what's so interesting about it is there kind of has been this lack of confidence in a lot of her, when you look at like Pruitt or Sadie or David, and they're so much more confident about it. But Edie sometimes kind of has this, I don't know, you can see that hesitancy through the whole movie. Something has just been kind of off. Like she's not 100% into this creepy what the fuck thing. Like, and
I do agree. Yeah. She's like 85% in, but not 100. Right.
And I think you can see those most in those moments where, Will is like, no, he died, and that's, blah, blah. And her face is very like, she's not just this confident, like, you don't know what I know. She just has this look like, fuck, yeah, he's kind of right, and it sucks because this whole thing has basically been for nothing. If this is what you believe in, you believe that you miss him and that you never got over this shit. I mean, all of this is for nothing in the first place, but like, at least, again, the intent is like, that's where she becomes like a total villain. It's not like the fact that she had some sense of like, I think this is kind of bullshit. Like, I miss my son, like kind of thing. I think at the end, she's having this like regret. She's like, oh God, this is not, I don't feel better about this. The only
I'm sorry I agreed to the murder of all my friends.
Right. Yeah. She's like, thank God this shit is over. Like, kind of look. And yeah, I mean, she dies and she goes outside and I love the whole, especially when you see them at the end and it's just the three of them left after this huge, I mean, they all look fucking awful. Like, and I want like a before and after of like the first 10 minutes versus the last 10 minutes of this movie. And especially Tommy, God bless your heart, man. He's like, I got to go up there and find Miguel. You're like, fucking shit. That's
carry down my dead boyfriend. With my open slashed chest.
Yeah, right. He's oh my God, dude. Tommy's one of the ones because I mean, it sucked for everybody, but like at least Kira and Will are like, hey, we made it. We've got each other. All my friends are dead. Each other. Right. Yeah. And he's like, oh, cool. Well, I'm just gonna go back alone and deal with not only my boyfriend or my husband, but every one of my closest friends murdered except for the two people that made out of it with me.
Seriously.
But this final shot, I mean, of them going back to the Red Lantern, which we totally fucking skipped over, but whatever.
Totally skipped.
Yeah. Oh, whoopsie doodle. You've seen the movie at this point. But yeah, them going back, the frame of them looking and understanding exactly what's going on is so great. They're like, wait, what? And the kind of horror of it, I think, sweeping over, it's dumbfoundedness. It's like, this is happening out there. And when you see exactly how many lights it is, it's like 15 fucking houses. And you're like, oh my God, like, is this like the cult of Dr. Oz? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like this crazy, you would think that this might be one or two places, but the fact that this has grown to the level that it's and it's not like a compound down in Waco, Texas. It's not, the People's Temple. It's not, it's not this faraway place that's like a compound full of people that believe in this shit. It's right next door. And you're like, fuck that, man. I think there are some brilliant shots in cinema, and the shot of them standing there, the Red Lantern to their left, and just this peppered night sea of the rest of them. It's just like, oh my God. And the sound, the sirens, the helicopters. What did you think about this the first time you saw it? Because this is like a and it's so funny. I said this when we did Get Out. It's like, this is the kind of movie that M. Night Shyamalan wishes he could make. And it's this kind of twist ending that I think M. Night Shyamalan wishes, like, you could say, it's not a twist ending per se, but it adds like, oh my God, like, it adds such a great shot of flavor into this. What did you think about this the first time you saw it?
Oh, it definitely, I mean, my first viewing, it totally shocked me. It surprised me. I had no idea what David was doing with this lantern. I'm like, oh, it's just an odd thing he's doing. Okay. And then that beautiful callback here where we see it reflected in all these other houses all through the Hollywood Hills, and you even hear gunshots. This is definitely playing out equally as badly at other places and messily, you have to imagine. And what I think is so great about that and so dark about it is it kind of just makes you realize like how many people are just in despair. Like it's not that, oh, all these people are agreed to like murder people like the purge because it's fun or something. It's like they all want to die. Like they all are so miserable and in despair that they want to die, and they want to have all their friends and close loved ones die with them. Like they think the world is so awful that it should just be abandoned. And you think like, wow, that is such a nihilistic, dark, awful philosophy. And yet you look out there and wow, there's hundreds of other people who feel the same way. Like that's what's so dark about it, man.
Right. Yeah. And the whole thing of, what's going on in this house. And it almost kind of gave me like a bit of an Us feel. And that doesn't really ruin anything. Like there is kind of like a feel of that going on in the movie Us, like the end of it. And it's very different from this, as in like that happens like way earlier on in the movie. But seeing something like this, where it's like the movie was great just to begin. I mean, this was incredible, but then the twist of this of being like, oh yeah, by the way, you remember the subtle things that have been dropped where like David says that there's people in New York, LA, Chicago, like he names off major metropolitan areas. And then you've also got Miguel, who's like, oh yeah, I know a lot of people who have done it. This is not some crazy, like, do you remember that shit that came out with the book called like The Secret, and people thought that they had unlocked this, like,
oh my God,
yeah,
dude.
that shit. And I when I picture this is what I picture, the people who are like really into The Secret and stuff. But this whole ending was just, I mean, I'm just kind of like fucking spiraling down into final thoughts, but the whole ending of this was like, it really was like I was already kind of knocked unconscious, and then they threw that final punch while my legs were dangling, and it just knocked me out of my fucking shoes. I was like, this is an incredible ending to this movie. The whole thing is just, it's not, I mean, yes, it's horror, but it's psychological thriller. Is it like Jacob's Ladder psychological? No, but it's like, it's a very emotionally driven story with a shit ton of external conflict and a fucking even more amount of internal conflict. And the internal conflict of it is what I love. Is like, we could take this just as a drama on its own, and probably watch it. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad movie. I understand that, but like, it's so well performed, this is interesting. But now we're going to add this element of, this whole religious cult kind of feel. We're in the hills of like LA. You get this Manson kind of feel from everything. Like, I feel like we're right next door to Sharon Tate, and it gave me this like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feel. Cause I went and saw that about a month ago, and it totally played into this as well. There's that feeling of that nighttime where, I don't know, everybody should just be chill, and this looks like such a nice place just to leave your doors unlocked, but you'd be fucking crazy to do that. But I really dug it, and I was just so surprised by it by the end, because which is so funny, because it wasn't like, oh, there's been no mention of the fact that this has been done multiple places. They say it like 2 or 3 times, and at the end you almost forget. You're like, oh, fuck, that's what that was for. And I think it's so subtle and tasteful and so well done. This movie, like we said, this wave of smart horror is just what I'm excited for as a horror fan. I love seeing stuff like this. There's that kind of, and I think it's the same thing going on for kind of like sci-fi right now, where you see stuff like Automata and Ex Machina and a Blade Runner sequel. And I love seeing these two genres of film that I love so much. There's been a lot of shitty sci-fi movies, and probably even more shitty horror movies, if I had to bet. But
yeah,
the getting to see those genres have another day in the sun is so fucking nice. It's kind of like this like Matthew McConaughey, like Stephen King thing we're in right now.
Totally.
And I'm so down for it, and I'm so game, and I wish, and I'm not gonna lie, would I be mad if they made like not a sequel to this movie, but like, I don't know, kind of like in the same vein of, we're just going to make a movie of something that happened like 4 houses down. Like, that might be kind of shitty, and it probably would be, but it's an interesting idea to think of. Like, you wouldn't have, this kind of, the way the story is set up here, it would have to be so radically different. It would have to be so, I don't know, like Will's emotional state is what the story kind of hinges on, and the fact of whether he's a reliable narrator or not. And it would be hard to duplicate anything like that in a sequel. I mean, I personally hope they don't do it, but I think it's an interesting concept of like, this only happened once, but in multiple areas. So we'll take, a story from here and do it like that. But But I mean, what are your final thoughts about this?
Oof, I mean, I feel like in truth, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said, but yeah, man, I think this is like you were saying, man, it's a great example of new intelligent horror. And its whole slow burn quality and the fact that it's not even like a linear, straightforward mystery slow burn of like, oh, we're just slowly getting pieces building to the reveal. No, you go back and forth. You start questioning the conclusions you were beginning to draw. And then you start to question your questioning of those conclusions. And you go back and forth and back and forth. And the way the movie has the patience to hold back and to really, really hold its punch until, I mean, essentially the last 15 minutes of the movie, I think is stellar. It's great. It asks a lot of you as an audience member. It asks you to be patient and asks you to wait and asks you to pay attention. But I think it's worth it. I think it's highly worth it. And again, like you already said, I think the real core of this movie is the emotional state of Will and of, all to a slightly lesser extent, Eden. And the two wildly different directions these two people have gone from the same trauma, and just the horrible development one took, and the also not healthy, but at least more stable development that Will took. I think it's just such an interesting way to explore that, and just like the devastation that one event in the past can cause, and by people's reconciling of it. I think it's just a great concept, man. That's such an intelligent way to start a horror movie of all things. I mean, like even saying it out loud, it sounds like I'm talking about the premise for another fucking Manchester by the Sea drama. Like, you know, like it sounds like a drama story, but you're like, no shit, this is a pretty hardcore thriller horror story. And evidently, you know, one of the interviews I was listening to with about Karyn Kusama, the director, she was saying that. So I didn't realize this actually. It's written by two guys, Phil Hay and Matt Manfredi. And the thing is, Phil is actually married to Karyn, and he's like writing partners with Matt. So these three have been like worked on multiple movies together. And evidently, this was a script they sat on for years. And a big part of, you know, why they were like, it just kind of sat around and they were like working on developing it. And it took so long. They were trying to figure out, I think they had the core concept of how can you maturely move on and reconcile with a trauma, or how could you not reconcile with it? And how might that twist you and change you? And that was it. Like they had that idea. They're like, how, you know, dealing with grief one way versus the other way. And what kind of people does that make? And that's where they started. Like, I love that they didn't start at okay, we're going to write a horror movie. Now what is it going to be about? They just started with that idea and it became a horror movie. And I think that is such a cool way to go about this process of finding the horror within a very essentially normal human struggle. Like we're all going to, I mean, they even talk about it in the movie, like we're all going to have traumas visited upon us. We're all going to lose people if you haven't already. Like it's going to happen. It's one of the tragedies of life and just being alive. But I think it's such an interesting idea to dig for what could be the terrifying aspect within there and make a story pulled from both. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I can't wait for, I want this movie to be seen even more. I want it to be further successful because I want movies like this to be successful. I mean, I think we're already seeing it with stuff like The Witch, which was that director's first movie, and he's going on to do The Lighthouse, which I am extremely excited about.
Yeah,
that's probably, in terms of horror movies coming out, that's the next one where I am just like, I'm already lock, stock, and barrel, fully sold on that movie. I'll be seeing it on like opening day. Very pumped for it. But yeah, man, this is one of what I think will be a classic horror movie in another 10, 15 years. Like this is going to be well remembered, even though I think that's really what it is. Like it came out and it was so small and it was so odd and nobody knew anything about it, just like myself. And I think its reputation is just going to grow and become more solid over time. And if for any reason anybody listening to this hasn't watched it yet, which fucking why? Go watch it. It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Dude, well, I'm glad you said that. I have somebody from IMDb who might disagree with you. No, I had to pull this up. It was a fucking amazing review of this. So this is a 1-star review. 1-star unsubscribe. This is the 1-star review of, I don't know who the fuck this person is. What is their name? I don't really care. The Cad God. What can I say? But next time, leave me off the guest list. Basically, this was 99 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. Everything about this movie was subpar. The writing, directing, editing, and the acting were mediocre at best.
Wow.
The premise of this movie is great, but the execution is miserable. Nothing save for the last 15 minutes had me captivated or even compelled to keep watching, and I would have stopped, but for some reason I kept expecting it to get better. I kept holding out hope that the last insert number of minutes of the drivel are finally justified, but that never truly happened. It was like the world's most boring slow motion train wreck. Mind you, it isn't the worst film I've ever seen, but it certainly ranks pretty low on the list. Everything about the plot and supposed twists were pretty evident and foreshadowed, obviously. Guy talks about a cult, guess what happens? Guy talks about killing his wife, guess what happens? Guy freaks out over someone else missing from the party, guess what happens? And yeah, I had a pretty strong idea of what was going to happen when the guy lit the red lamp. In essence, virtually every event in the beginning of the movie may as well have been a neon sign saying, guess what will happen next? I'm like, really? I am only reading a third of what this person put. A third. And I'm like, I've already read too much.
Dude,
like,
round of applause for this guy.
Yeah,
he's so smart.
thank you.
This guy's so smart. He knew everything. He knew, man, he's so smart. He knew the
could-
whole movie.
I could not believe that, bro. I was like, oh my fucking God, dude. Like, just this person is like, this movie's boring. I mean, I saw what was happening before it even happened. That's how bored I was. It's like,
What's especially silly about that is you can tell he's trying to do this whole thing of like, this movie's actually, it's trying to be smart, but it's actually really stupid and nothing's interesting. But you've already played your hand. You're like, well, it got cool in the last 10 minutes when everybody started stabbing each other. That was tight. I'm like, you're an idiot. You just want a fucking slasher movie. Just admit it. You just wanted that.
Right,
You're
exactly.
bored.
Exactly. You wanted the last 15 minutes to be like the last hour and a half. Like that's what you wanted. But I had to read that off. It was too fucking funny. But basically, I mean, if there's no more final thoughts or anything, you want to wrap up and get out of here?
Yeah, man, I think I'm tapped. Everybody go fucking watch The Invitation. It's still on Netflix.
Well, I tell you what, before we drop any socials to get out of here, why don't you talk to us about LSG for a minute? Give us some socials, let the people know where they can find you.
Oh, yes, sir. We just launched very recently The Lost Drive-In. We had been doing the Science Fiction Film Podcast, which is now an archive feed, which has our, 300 or so first episodes on there.
Yeah, a couple.
Just a handful of episodes you got. But now we're getting in there pretty deep with our new format with The Lost Drive-In, focusing on really horror movies, cult movies, B movies, really kind of like pulpy, funny, weird slasher. Completely opposite of this. But let's see. So far, we've done Mad Max, we've done The Reanimator. We're getting in there deep. We just got done doing Day of the Dead. Our most recent one that's about to drop, probably by the time you're listening to this, listener, you could find our most recent episode on Rosemary's Baby, a movie that Dean and I both are extremely high on. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been an interesting, cool change of format for us. The episodes are a little tighter. They're all about an hour and a half. It's good time. Good fucking time. And if you want to hear more of my inane shit on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at MatthewLSG Media.
Excellent. Yeah, as anybody who listens might not know, LSG is how Zoheb and I ended up fighting each other. And, we've had Matt on before for our episode of Get Out. We always love having, we had Dean on for the episode of Roadhouse. We've had a lot of guests. I've been trying to, I'm always a fan of like having a guest on. Like I told Zoe, I was like, I would love to have a podcast where it was two main guys and then every week they swapped out the third person. And it was like, you kind of just added in a little bit of a sprinkle for each one. But we had Chris Schrader on for In the Mouth of Madness. We had Carlos on for fucking The Warriors. We had Patrick on for Bohemian Rhapsody. So after this one, we're done for a while. So fucking save your request because we're not having anybody else. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're really looking forward because we even in the future are probably going to have a couple more people from LSG on, maybe before the end of the year is out. I don't know, maybe tipping my hand a little bit, maybe not. But guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for staying late and checking us out and finishing up the episode. If you want to find us, we're on Twitter at MDF Pod. We're on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. But we've also got the group attached to that called the After Party. It's where we post our dick pics and memes and all the funny shit. If you want a more news kind of shit,
great dicks, by the way, all of them. Great, the whole crew of great dicks.
It's that Aussie dick, man. But yeah, and from our page, we usually end up posting like a lot more of the trailers and news reviews and stuff like that. But if you want to get down and just chat with some people and have some fun and shit, the after party's for you. Like I said, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, rate us and review us on iTunes. And yeah, guys, thanks for so much listening. Matt, thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll probably do it again in about a year. No, I'm just you're one a year that you get.
The most I got. I need a break. I need a 364-day break. I'm sorry.
Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. Matthew, thank you for coming on, and we will catch you guys later.